Chapter 947, Gu Yundong's speech. First of all, I want to thank everyone here for working diligently over the past year. Many things have happened. When the prefectural city opened for business, there was a shortage of stock. It was everyone who worked overtime to meet the demand. Manager Tong was assassinated and remained unconscious for a long time. It was also everyone who did their job in an orderly manner. Gu Yundong did not expect that one day, she would stand in front of everybody and say such emotional words like a leader. However, these people had really moved her. They were hardworking, simple, passionate, and motivated. They were really a very cute group of people. Hence, whether it was the annual party or feast, she felt that they deserved it. Whether it's the Gu family's workshop or the orchard, it's the result of everyone's joint efforts. In the past year, the workshop has increased from 50 to 100 people, the orchard has increased from 80 acres to 180 acres, and the shop has been opened from the county city to the prefectural city. All of this couldn't have been done without everyone present. You have all contributed. You're very good. Someone couldn't help but whimper. Boss, don't say that. You've helped us even more. You gave us such a high salary. If we don't work hard, will we still be human? That's right, boss. If it weren't for you, my house would still be a straw hut. I wouldn't even have a warm bed. That's right. If I didn't work at the Gu family's workshop, I wouldn't have been able to get a wife. Yes, yes, yes. Since I'm working here, my daughter's dowry has been gathered. Boss Gu was too good. In the past, when they worked outside, no one had affirmed their work like this. Not to mention thanking them, it was already good enough if they were paid in time. At this moment, they were actually thanked by their boss. They felt as if they had eaten honey. Gu Dajiang looked at his daughter with incomparable pride. He felt warm inside. Yundong was too outstanding. Gu Yundong was stunned to see them crying. Then, she laughed. All right, I won't say anything else. I know that everyone is waiting for a feast. Serve the dishes. As soon as she finished speaking, there was a burst of cheers. Immediately after, someone brought the food over. In the countryside, the dishes were all served in big pots and bowls. The Gu family's feast was a real feast. Most of them were meat. As soon as the food was served, the workers pounced on it like wolves and tigers. Each of them picked up 2 pieces of meat, and the bottom was quickly revealed. On the other hand, Gu Yundong's table was much more refined. Gu Dajiang drank with Chen Liang. Both of them were slow-witted. They could drink for a long time after filling a glass. Bian Han's leg was still injured and he couldn't drink, so he chatted with him. Madame Yang and Gu Yunka were the happiest. They loved this kind of liveliness the most. When they were almost done eating and there were only 2 or 3 dishes left, Gu Yundong stood up and walked forward. Everyone's stomachs were already full and their movements had slowed down. Hence, most of them saw Gu Yundong's actions and found it strange. Is it time to deliver the New Year goods? I saw it just now. 2 large carts were pushed in. Unfortunately, there was a cloth covering it, so I couldn't see what was inside. In any case, there's definitely meat. Manager Tong brought back a lot of pork this morning. I heard that there was meat in cloth last year. There are so many people this year. I wonder if there are more. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 948, Surprise at the annual party. Gu Yundong coughed lightly and the buzzing below immediately stopped. Gu Yundong said, I know. Everyone is looking forward to the New Year presents. They will definitely be distributed this year. However, before they are distributed, there will be a surprise for everyone. Surprise? Everyone's eyes widened. Some of the bolder ones who had drunk a little hurriedly stood up and asked, Boss Gu, what surprise? Is there more food tomorrow after today? Ha ha ha, you wish, someone couldn't help but scold. Gu Yundong also smiled. It's not good to have fish and meat every day. The surprise I'm talking about is this. As she spoke, she glanced at Tong Shuitao, who immediately handed over a wooden box. Everyone looked confused. A wooden box? Could it be that there was something good inside? However, the wooden box did not look big or heavy. What was inside? While everyone was guessing, Gu Yundong had already spoken. There are notes inside. There are words written inside. Now, it's up to your luck. Whoever draws the note with the first, second, and third prizes will be rewarded. Wow, there was an uproar below. A lucky draw? There was actually a lucky draw? This was really a surprise, a huge surprise. Alright, now Shuitao will carry the box to every table. You just have to sit in your seats. When the time comes, you just have to reach in and pull out a note. There are a total of 15 rewards this time. 2 for the first prize, 5 for the second prize, and 8 for the third prize. With that, Tong Shuitao carried the wooden box to the first table. The first person was stunned for a moment until someone pushed him. He suddenly came back to his senses and quickly reached in to take out a note. The second person rubbed his hands, closed his eyes, and muttered, "Bless me for winning, winning, winning." Then, with an expression that said he was ready to die, he reached his hand in. The people behind also looked like they were praying to God and Buddha, hoping that they would win. Even if they couldn't win the first prize, they could at least win the second or third prizes. Everyone drew a note, but no one opened it first. It was as if they would be lucky if they did it late. Even when Tong Shuitao returned to Gu Yundong's side, the people below did not stop buzzing. Take a look at yours and see if you won any prizes. Why don't you look at yours? Yours first, then mine. Come on. Gu Yundong waited for a long time but did not see these people open the note. She immediately held her forehead. It's getting late. Are you sure you want to open the note until tomorrow? If that's the case, I'll leave. No, well look. Well look right away. The people below finally couldn't hold it in anymore and quickly opened the note to read. Then, voices sounded one after another. Hey, let me see. What are these words? I don't know him either. Ask Zhuangzi. He can read. Someone took the note to Zhuangzi, who was nearby. Zhuangzi narrowed his eyes and glanced at the expectant person. He sighed and said, "These words are thank you for participating." That person was a little confused. What does it mean? It means you didn't win the lottery. Ah, the person immediately wailed and slapped his hands hard. Bad hands. Why can't you even get the third prize? Gu Yundong saw that many people couldn't read and did not know what it meant. She immediately explained, "It's okay if you don't know the words on the paper. Count them. If it's 4 words, you don't win the lottery. If it's 2 words, you do. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 949, What's the Prize? As soon as Gu Yundong finished speaking, someone jumped up. Ah, I won. I won. Although he couldn't read, he knew how to count. Immediately after, voices rose and fell in the crowd. I got it too. Ha ha ha, I got it too. When most people saw the words in their hands, they sighed. Then, they shifted their gazes and looked enviously at the people who had won the lottery. Gu Yundong said, "Winners, please come up first." A few people in the crowd walked forward excitedly. There were 15 people. 4 were women, and the rest were all men. After all, the percentage of male workers was relatively large. They held the notes tightly in their hands. Their faces were slightly red from excitement, and their eyes were strangely bright. They handed the notes to Tongan and asked him to tell them the prize they had won. After all, they could not read. It just so happened that a woman and a man won the first prize. The woman was from the neighboring village. It was said that her family was in trouble, and her 4 children were crying for food. The oldest was only 11 years old. The man in the family was not in good health, so he could only do some simple work. Later on, this woman entered the Gu family's workshop and got paid. Only then did her family's life gradually improve. She did not expect her luck to be so good that she won the first prize. Someone said softly, Mrs. Sun's bitter life has finally come to an end. Ever since she entered the Gu family's workshop, her luck has also come. Gu Yundong thought that Mrs. Sun would definitely like this prize. As for the other first prize winner, he was from Yongfu village. His family background was alright. The second prize was given to a woman and 4 men. One of them was Zhao Zhu, and another 2 were from the neighboring villages. The remaining man and woman were from Yongfu village. The remaining 2 women and 6 men won the third prizes. Some were from Yongfu village and some were from the neighboring villages. These 15 people were all very excited. Even someone as steady as Zhao Zhu clenched his fists tightly. Gu Yundong got someone to bring everything up. Next, let me tell you what the prizes are. She lifted the cloth on the first pile, revealing what lay beneath. This is the third prize. There's not much. I hope you like it. Everyone leaned forward and saw boxes on the ground. Inside were cinnamon, red dates, peanuts, melon seeds, and other snacks. Everyone could not help but widen their eyes. This was quite a lot. This was enough to entertain guests for the new year. Moreover, there were many things that they could not bear to buy during the Lunar New Year. Not to mention, there were 2 pots of wine. Judging from the logo, this wine seemed to be brewed by the Tao family in the county city. It was not that kind of cheap wine. Anyway, it was completely different from what they were drinking now. They had never even touched it. Many people present could not help but swallow their saliva. The 8 people who won the prizes were overjoyed and looked at the gift boxes eagerly. This box looked good too. Gu Yundong distributed the items one by one. The 8 of them thanked her profusely. When they received the food boxes, they walked back to their original positions in satisfaction. The people at the same table immediately surrounded someone. They wanted to reach out to eat the things in the gift box, but he slapped them away. What are you doing? This is what I have to bring back. I still have to show it to my wife. Don't think about eating it, and don't mess it up. Look at how stingy you are. The person beside him snorted and continued to look ahead. There were so many delicious food for the third prize. He wondered what the second and first prizes were. He was so looking forward to it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 950, Second prize. The people sitting below were all very curious and urged him. Gu Yundong did not keep them in suspense. She got someone to remove the cloth on the second pile. Soon, many boxes were revealed below. Everyone was speechless. Why were they all in boxes? Could it be that they were also peanuts, red dates, or something, but there were more portions? This is the second prize. 1 set of cutlery for each person. Although it was called a set, it was actually filled to the brim with a huge box. There were at least 4 sets of bowls, plates, chopsticks, spoons, and cups. There was also a small casserole and a kettle. There were also 2 pots of wine beside it. Wow, the people below exclaimed, their eyes wide open. There were so many pots and pans, and they were brand new and shiny. Most of the people here still had holes in their bowls. Sometimes, they would cut their lips when eating porridge. But even so, they could not bear to throw the bowls away or change them. At this moment, the boss actually offered a whole set. Wasn't this too much? These things were not cheap at all. The men and women who had won the second prize were so excited that their cheeks turned red. They stared at the boxes. Gu Yundong said, "These things are a little heavy. If it's not easy for you to carry them, you can hire someone to help you bring them back after the annual party. It's easy to carry. We're very strong. We're not afraid of heavy lifting," someone immediately replied. The others couldn't help but laugh. but they all nodded, even the woman. What a joke. They could not wait to pounce on the pile of cutlery and touch it properly. How could they wait until the end of the annual party? They could not wait to carry it home and hide it now so that others would not covet their prizes. The others looked like they wanted to split it up on the spot. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She did not care anymore and asked them to go forward and get one for themselves. These things were quite heavy. In addition, the wooden box containing the cutlery was not light either. If she distributed them one by one, she would probably die of exhaustion. However, the people who won the prize were not afraid of getting tired at all. They went forward and squatted on the ground. They carefully touched it first and then began to whisper to each other, "This bowl is really flat. It's smooth to the touch. It's not rough at all. If I take it back, I won't even be able to bear to use it. Look at these chopsticks. There are even carvings on the top. It's not cheap. So much. It's not cheap at all." The bowls that Gu Yundong bought were all clay bowls that were suitable for them. She had originally considered porcelain bowls, but she was afraid that if they were given out, no one would use them and they would only be locked up. That would be meaningless. However, even if they were just clay bowls, the quality was very good. "Hey, are you done? If you've seen enough, come down quickly. We're still waiting for the first prize. Don't delay others." The people below couldn't take it anymore. These second prize winners were simply too detestable. Not only did they receive the award, but they also had to show off in front of the audience. They even pointed their butts at the audience. The audience simply wanted to rush up and beat them to death. Only then did they cough lightly and stop discussing. They quickly picked up their boxes. But it was really quite heavy. Therefore, other than the few men who carried it down one by one, the woman was in a difficult position. In the end, it was Tong Shuitao who helped her carry it to her own seat. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 951, First Prize. After receiving the second prize, only the two people who had drawn the first prize were left. The two of them became inexplicably nervous. It was such a cold day, but their palms were drenched in sweat. Gu Yundong asked someone to remove the last piece of cloth. Everyone felt that the last pile was especially big. They thought that there would definitely be a lot of prizes. As expected, as soon as the cloth was lifted, everyone's eyes widened. This time, the prize wasn't contained in a box because it really couldn't fit in. Gu Yundong said, "This is the first prize. There's a 10-caddy quilt, a mattress, a mat, a tent, and a pillow. Each person has 2 sets of these. There are also 2 pots of wine and a bag of tea leaves." Wow! A loud exclamation suddenly erupted from below. Everyone's eyes widened. A 10-caddy quilt? There were also other things, and there were actually 2 sets. They were so jealous that their eyes turned red. They looked at the 2 people who had won the first prize and wished they could swap places with them. Compared to the third and second prizes, this first prize was really generous. For example, most of the quilts in their families were only 5 caddies. At most, they were only 8 caddies. 10 caddies. It looked big and brand new. It would definitely be very warm if it covered them. In such weather, it was no different from sending charcoal in the snow. They wanted it, very much. Many people subconsciously reached out their hands. Some even went up directly. If Gu Yundong had not been standing there, they would have touched the prize. These things were not cheap. Not to mention the quilt, even the mattress was thicker than the hard blanket they had used for a few years. In that case, they could be counted as 4 quilts. Jealousy. Jealousy had changed them beyond recognition. Bad hands, bad hands. Why didn't they get the first prize? Why? Mrs. Sun, who had won the first prize, had reddened eyes and almost cried. It was true. What a thick quilt that contained 10 caddies of cotton. Her family was already in a difficult situation. There were only 2 thin blankets at home, one for her and her husband and one for the children. In the winter, they could only cover all their clothes with them, but even so, they would often wake up in the middle of the night from the cold. Originally, when she entered the Gu family workshop this year, she finally had some money saved. She planned to buy some cotton after her salary was paid, so that she could stuff the blanket and make it thicker. Because of this, she did not even buy any New Year goods. She did not expect her luck to be so good that she directly drew 2 quilts. That was great. With 2 such thick quilts, her husband and she could have one and her children could have the other. Finally, the family could sleep soundly. Mrs. Sun could no longer hold back her tears. Gu Yundong was stunned for a moment. "What's wrong, Mrs. Sun? Don't you like the quilts? If you don't like them, you can ask someone else if they're willing to exchange them with you, or, no, I like them very much." "Thank you. Thank you, boss." Mrs. Sun hurriedly said, I'm just too happy." The people below laughed. "Boss, your prize is in her heart." "That's right. Boss, you know us too well." Only then did Gu Yundong feel relieved. She said to Mrs. Sun, "There are a lot of things, and they're very heavy. Can I get someone to carry them back for you later?" Yes, thank you." Mrs. Sun was so happy that she could not say anything. Not only him, but the other man who had also won the first prize was also very excited. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 952, New Year's goods for everyone. He didn't lack quilts, but he really didn't have one that weighed 10 caddies. These quilts were especially beautiful. Coincidentally, his daughter was about to get married. This quilt would be a great honor for her as a dowry, and the color was festive. And that wine and tea leaves were all good things. What should he do? He could not bear to take them out to drink on his daughter's wedding day. However, he quickly said to Gu Yundong, "Boss, thank you so much." Gu Yundong waved her hand. "Since you both like them, I'm relieved. Leave the things here first. When you get back, you can get someone to help carry them back." "Sure thing." The 2 of them did not touch it. After all, they could not bear to. Their hands were too rough. What if they broke it? However, when they returned to their seats, the people around them surrounded them. All of them were very enthusiastic and said that they wanted to help carry the prizes home. In fact, they wanted to take a closer look and touch the prizes. There was a lot of noise below. They were too happy about winning the prize. Whether it was the first, second, or third prizes, they were all envious. Initially, Gu Yundong had thought that the first prize could be a cow or a donkey. After all, many companies in the modern era had cars for annual party prizes. Later on, she thought about it and decided to forget it. Hers was just a small workshop, and it was the first annual party. What would she do in the future if she were to give away cows and donkeys now? Therefore, after pondering for a while, she decided to give them something practical. Judging from their reactions, they should be very satisfied. Alright, the lottery is over. Next, everyone will have a share of the New Year goods. As soon as Gu Yundong spoke, the people below instantly fell silent. As soon as they heard about the New Year goods, everyone immediately sat up straight. After all, these were really in their hands and had nothing to do with others, so there was no need to be envious. Therefore, getting the New Year goods was more important. Soon, Tong An and Tong Ping pushed the cart over. It was filled with meat, and everyone's eyes lit up instantly. Even though they had just finished eating a big meal, they could not help but swallow hard. Several ways to cook pork flashed across their minds. 2 caddies of meat for each person. Everyone, don't be anxious. Everyone has a share. Gu Yundong led the Gu family in pieces of pork. Everyone was distributed. Even the 2 little fellows, Yunshu and Yunka, were helping excitedly. They swung their legs upside down and handed the meat to the villagers. After the meat was distributed, the cloth was given away. White sugar followed, and the last was pastries. There were a total of 4 items, and everyone's hands were filled with them. Everyone was very excited and discussed animatedly. They did not have to buy those things during the new year and saved a lot of money. Yundong waited for them to finish their discussion before continuing. The New Year's goods had been distributed. Finally, it's this month's salary. Tong Shuitao carried up another basket. It was really because most people were given copper coins, so she had no choice but to use the basket. Yundong took a brush and paper and an account book. She sat behind a table and said to everyone, "Now, come up one by one. You can go back after receiving the salary. It's been hard on everyone this year. Continue to work hard next year and strive to earn more money." Okay. The voices below were exceptionally loud, and everyone was very excited. Yundong nodded in satisfaction and opened the account book. Come up when you hear your name. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 953, More Surprise? Yundong quickly recited, Su Huar. Here. Yundong had an impression of her. Last year, she was also there when the short-term workers received the New Year's goods. When they arrived, Yundong took the string of copper coins from Tong Shuitao and handed it to her. Su Huar bowed. Thank you, boss. Then, she took the copper coins and walked to the side. Yundong ticked her name. Then, she started to call the second person. Just as she was handing out copper coins to the second person, Su Huar, who was beside her, suddenly exclaimed, "Boss, you gave an extra 100 copper coins." Everyone looked over in unison, but Yundong was not surprised. It's the new year. Take these 100 copper coins as a red packet for everyone. Everyone has it. You can buy New Year goods with it. 100 copper coins was not much. It could be considered the year-end bonus. Everyone had worked hard for an entire year. On the last day, they still had to celebrate. When the people behind heard this, they were overjoyed. They did not expect that when the workshop closed for the holiday, there would be a meal gathering, a lucky draw, and a New Year's gift. In the end, there was even a red packet. The surprises came one after another, making them a little dizzy and unable to find the north. These things were common to modern companies, but in this era, they were unique. But to Yundong, these extra rewards did not cost much. In total, it was about 50 to 60 taels. However, this would make everyone happy. In the future, they would be more loyal to the Gu family and have a greater sense of belonging to the Gu family. Moreover, they would be able to publicize it for free. This money was very worth it. The pay was distributed one by one. Everyone could not help but count it again and again. It was not that they did not trust Yundong and were afraid that they would be paid less. They just could not resist the desire to count the money, especially when they had an extra 100 copper coins. They felt so good. The Zheng couple, the Shi couple, Zhao Zhu, and the other managers were the last to be paid. Their salaries were high, so they were directly given silver. Everyone was a little envious when they saw this. They thought that if they worked harder, they would be able to touch silver when they became managers in the future. However, none of these people left after receiving the money. Yundong found it strange. Then, she saw that everyone was busy. The tables were cleared, the stools were cleared, and the women were tidying up the pots and pans and cleaning the ground. Yundong immediately smiled. Whether it was New Year goods or red packets, they were indeed worth it. In just a short while, the workshop returned to its original state. It was clean. The tables and chairs had all been returned. Everyone stood in front of Yundong again with the New Year goods in their hands. They waved at Yundong. "Boss, we wish you a happy New Year in advance." "Well, take our leave first." Yundong waved her hand. "Happy New Year to you too. See you next year." Only then did everyone turn around and leave. The weather outside was very cold and dark, but the people who came out of the workshop were all overjoyed and warm. The families of the people from the neighboring villages who lived further away came to pick them up. Mrs. Sun's husband was also here. Although he was not in good health, it was fine for him to go out. At this moment, he saw Mrs. Sun carrying a large pile of things in her hand. There were actually quilts. Her husband's face was filled with shock as he hurriedly went up to her. Mrs. Sun was very happy to see him. She said with a face full of joy, "Husband, we drew the lottery today. I won the first prize. Look, there are 2 big quilts and beddings, and these, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 954, New Year Mrs. Sun's husband was stunned. He subconsciously took a quilt in it, unable to come back to his senses. The people beside her had already started talking at once. "Your wife is lucky. You don't know that there were only 2 people who won this prize. Your wife was one of them. This quilt weighs 5 kilograms. Look, it's so thick. It's thick, it's indeed thick." He nodded blankly. Mrs. Sun raised the New Year goods again. These were also given by the boss. "We don't have to buy them for the new year." Someone at the side shouted, "Let's go back first. It's already so late. Let's not stand here anymore. Let's go." Yundong gave a few lanterns to the people living in the neighboring villages and asked them to go back together in case they could not see the road. However, it did not matter to them whether they had lanterns or not. The road was so wide that they could walk as they pleased. It was even more convenient for those from the local village. Many people were still waiting outside. Soon, the lively crowd dispersed. Yundong led his parents and siblings back to the Gu house. The door of the workshop was closed. Next, they just had to prepare for the new year in peace. When they reached home, Yundong took out a few red packets and gave one to the Tong family, the Lu family, and Shui Rong. Everyone thanked her and happily accepted it. When Yundong returned to her room, she wrote a letter to Xiao Qingyuan and told him in detail about today's annual party. Now that they could not see each other, they could only contact each other through letters. Unfortunately, he couldn't be at home during the new year. She recalled that last year, Xiao Qingyuan was alone at home. Later, he was called over by Yun Shu to set off firecrackers and have New Year's Eve dinner with the Gu family. This year, only Ah Go and the auntie who cooked were in the Xiao family. Yundong also gave them red packets on behalf of Xiao Qingyuan. The next day, the incident at the Gu family workshop's annual party swept through Yongfu village and the neighboring villages like a violent wind. Everyone was envious when they heard that everyone had New Year's goods and a few big awards. Thus, a new round of inquiring about whether the workshop was recruiting people began again. Unfortunately, Yundong was not recruiting for the time being. Even if she wanted to recruit, she had to expand the workshop first. In the following days, the Gu family began to prepare for the new year. They cleaned the house, made tofu, killed chickens and fish, and made dumplings. Everything was warm. On New Year's Eve, the family gathered together with smiles on their faces. Yundong recalled last year. At that time, her father had not been found, and she did not know where eldest Aunt Gu was. Yuanji was suffering in old Gus' house. Now, apart from Uncle Gu, her family was finally reunited. Yundong believed that they would be able to find younger uncle sooner or later. This was her first wish for the new year. The dinner was very sumptuous. After eating, everyone went to set off firecrackers. Since Xiao Qingyuan wasn't around, Dajiang was the one who lit the firecrackers. Yundong held the little girl in her arms and listened to the crackling sounds. She looked at Yun Shu and Yuanji jumping around and could not help but smile. After the firecrackers were released, Yun Shu and Yuanji ran in to move the fireworks out. The two of them were bold enough to light the fireworks themselves. The fireworks rushed into the sky with a bang and exploded. The people in the village looked up one after another. The children's voices were especially cheerful. The crowing of chickens and barking of dogs made the night in Yongfu village seem like a busy city. After the fireworks ended, fireworks exploded in the sky on the other side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 955. Gu Yundong is also a junior who is doted on. The Gu family could not help but turn their heads and look in the direction of the fireworks. Xianxia's eyes lit up. She jumped and said, "It's Yundong house. It must be his house that set off the fireworks." Gu Yundong smiled and nodded. It was indeed in the direction of Chen Liang's house. It seemed that the Chen family had earned a lot of money this year and was extravagant. After New Year's Eve, it would be New Year's Day the next day. It was different from last year. Last year, Gu Yundong could only give out red packets. The only red packet that was given to her came from Xiao Qingyuan. She had placed it in a box and kept it in the space. This year, when Gu Yundong woke up, she received red packets from her parents, aunt and father. Looking at the red packets in front of her, Gu Yundong's eyes burned. This was the first time in many years that she had received a red packet from her family and elders. Gu Yundong felt that her life was complete. She put away the complicated and sour feeling in her heart and reached out to take them. "Thank you, father and mother. Thank you, eldest aunt and uncle. Happy New Year." Gu Dajiang patted her head. "Happy New Year. I hope you'll be healthy and safe in the new year. Be happy every day." As he spoke, he felt a little reluctant. Gu Dajiang had a feeling that this year might be Yundong's last year receiving red packets as an unmarried girl. Next year, she might even have to bring Xiao Qingyuan along. Thinking about it, he started to dislike Xiao Qingyuan again. Fortunately, Xiao Qingyuan wasn't present this year. Otherwise, he would definitely receive Gu Dajiang's angry glare. Immediately after, Gu Dajiang gave a few more red packets to the younger ones. This time, it was not Gu Yundong's turn to give away red packets. She was also a junior now who had parents, aunts, and uncles to dote on her. After Yunshu, Yunka, and the other children received the red packets, they ran out to play with their friends. Not long after, they brought a group of children in to pay New Year greetings. The Gu family had prepared a lot of sweets, sunflower seeds, and snacks. When the children were here, none of them returned empty-handed. Their clothes and pockets were filled. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, most of the villagers started to visit their relatives. The relatives of the Gu family were all at home, so there was no need to travel around. However, there were many people who came to visit. The Gu family stayed at home to entertain the guests. On the third day of the Lunar New Year, the whole family went up the mountain to visit Bien Mulan. It was Bien Han's first time back. It was inconvenient for him in a wheelchair. It was not easy to walk up the mountain, so he could only be carried by a few people. When he saw Bien Mulan's tombstone, he couldn't help but cry. Everyone present felt terrible. They were living a good life now, but Bien Mulan couldn't enjoy it. After crying for a while, the Bien family calmed down a little and went down the mountain. On the fourth day of the Lunar New Year, Gu Yundong and his family went to Qin Wenzhang's house to visit him. On the fifth day of the Lunar New Year, Gu Yundong went to the Lu residence again. Lu Wei was not around and went out to play. However, Lu Yi was at home. He had a good relationship with Yun Shu and Yuanji and insisted that they stay for the night. On the sixth and seventh day of the new year, Gu Yundong went to take a look at other people's houses. On the eighth day of the new year, the workshop reopened and all the workers returned. Gu Yundong looked at their flushed faces. This meant that they all celebrated the new year in happiness. Sure enough, after the workshop started, everyone worked even harder. However, Xiao Qingyuan hadn't returned yet. He had sent a few letters back, saying that everything was going smoothly. Although Gu Yundong was looking forward to his return, she was also very busy. After all, her father would be taking the imperial examination at the beginning of next month. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 956. 10 thin clothes. Gu Yundong was still a little excited about the imperial examination. Not only her, but everyone in the Gu family was on high alert, especially Gu Dafeng. As Gu Dajiang's sister, she knew best about his helplessness when he wanted to study as a kid. She accompanied him through the experience of being chosen by the old elementary scholar and recognized by the old patriarch. Later on, the old patriarch and the old elementary scholar passed away one after another. Originally, he was just close to taking the preparation scholar exam, but his rights were directly stripped. In the end, he put down his books and worked in the fields all day. Gu Dafeng had accompanied him all this way. At that time, he saw his younger brother, who was clearly talented, good at studying, and motivated, but because of Madame Zhao's suppression, old Gus inaction, and the patriarch's personal grudge, he cut off his chance to study. This made Gu Dafeng hate the Gu family very much. She wanted to protect Gu Dajiang, but it was too difficult. She was still young at that time. Dealing with the 3 mountains above her was no different from courting death. Therefore, now that Gu Dajiang could participate in the imperial examination, the joy in Gu Dafeng's heart could not be described with words. She had even cried behind someone's back. Gu Yundong knew that there was no need to worry about endorsement and recognition. With Qin Wenzheng's help, what she needed to think about now was how to let her father perform normally in the examination hall and strive to pass in one go. The county exam was in February. There were 5 subjects, and each one was only for a day. It was still bearable. After all, he did not have to stay in a narrow examination shed and endure the consequences of his back aching and legs weakening. However, the weather in February was still very cold, so it was still very important to keep warm. It was just that she had heard that when entering the examination hall, hats were not allowed to be double-layered. The leather jacket had to be stripped of its skin, and the felt clothes were removed from the inside. The clothes and robes were all single-layered, the socks were made of single-layered felt, and the shoes were made of thin soles. Just thinking about these rules made Gu Yundong feel cold. She touched her chin and went to look for Gu Dafeng. She said, "Eldest aunt, I think we have to prepare at least 10 pieces of single clothes for father. Otherwise, he'll shiver from the cold." Gu Yundong's embroidery skills were still not good. After all, this was Gu Dajiang's clothes. It was not good for her to ask Xianxia to make it, so she simply looked for eldest aunt. Gu Dajiang happened to walk over. When he heard that, he looked at himself. Single clothes, 10 pieces. Well, Yundong, the weather is already getting warmer next month, so there's no need for so many, he said. If I put all 10 clothes on, I'm afraid I won't even be able to straighten my hand. How can I write? Gu Yundong waved her hand. It's okay. Make the clothes inside smaller and the clothes outside bigger. But that's still uncomfortable. Gu Yundong turned around and said solemnly, "Father, it's better than catching a cold. At least wear it when you go in. If it does affect your performance while you're holding the brush, then take it off." His daughter was so concerned about him. It was as if he would hurt her heart if he rejected her again. Gu Dajiang nodded. All right. Gu Yundong was satisfied. He thought for a while and suddenly slapped his forehead. I almost forgot. Forgot what? Gu Dafeng asked. Father, each of you has a test tent, right? Moreover, you have to draw lots to determine the location of the test tent? Gu Dajiang had already asked around. That's indeed the case. What's wrong? I'm worried that you won't get a good spot. Gu Yundong frowned. Father, what if you get a spot next to the toilet? Well, what could he do? Acknowledge his bad luck? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 957, Yundong is right. Gu Dajiang was already mentally prepared, so he didn't think much of it. On the other hand, Gu Dafeng became nervous. Then what should we do? If you draw a spot beside the toilet, won't you have to smell that disgusting smell for the entire day? How can you write? How can you think? How can you eat? Gu Yundong nodded and said in agreement, also, I heard that some candidates get nervous easily when they enter the examination hall. When they are nervous, their stomach hurts. When it hurts, they have to go to the toilet. If they come a few more times, my father will probably faint from the smell. That won't do, that won't do. Yundong, can you get someone to change your father's position? After saying that, Gu Dafeng asked worriedly, this shouldn't be considered bribing the examiner, right? It's just changing his position. It's not like he cheated. Gu Yundong shook her head. No, I heard that the examination is especially strict. Such private transactions can't be made at all. Otherwise, you'll be beheaded. Then what should we do? Gu Dafeng was anxious. It wasn't easy for your father to have the chance to take the imperial examination. How can he destroy it on the toilet? Gu Dajiang was speechless. Wait, are you guys mistaken? This is just a possibility, just a possibility. Why does it sound like you've already confirmed that he'll definitely sit in the test shed beside the toilet? Hey, there are so many people taking the exam. I really don't have to, father, you have to consider all possibilities, Gu Yundong said solemnly. Gu Dafeng nodded. Yundong is right. We can't hope for luck. What if you're unlucky? Yundong is right. Gu Dafeng continued to nod. So, father, we have to think of a way to solve this problem first. Yundong is right. Gu Dafeng nodded halfway and suddenly looked at her in surprise. You've thought of a way? Gu Yundong said in all seriousness, I do have a stupid but very effective method here. Tell me quickly. Gu Dafeng's eyes lit up. However, Gu Dajiang suddenly had a very bad feeling. Gu Yundong said, we have to let my father get used to this smell first. You mean, Gu Yundong looked at Gu Dajiang. Father, during this period of time, when you're reading and writing articles, move the table near the outhouse. When you're used to it and can smell nothing, you won't have anything to fear. You won't care where the examination hall is when you write articles. Gu Dajiang couldn't help but widen his eyes. Yundong, I'm your father, your biological father. What the hell is smelling nothing? You even create an idiom yourself, right? When Gu Dafeng heard this, she was a little hesitant. Was this method really fine? She looked at Gu Dajiang, who shook his head vigorously. No, definitely not. I probably wouldn't draw that spot at all. Gu Yundong said, Father, you said it's possible. What if? What if your luck is extremely bad? But Yundong, I'm actually not that weak. Think about it. I've suffered in the past. I can overcome such a small matter. There's no need to make so much effort. But Dad, for the past 6 months, you've mostly been reading and writing in a comfortable environment. Now that you've suddenly fallen into such a bad situation, the difference is too great, and it's easier for you to feel unbalanced. Gu Dajiang felt that all his years of studying had been in vain. He actually couldn't win against his daughter in a debate? Yundong, are you serious? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 958, dressed so festively. Gu Yundong nodded seriously. Very seriously. Seeing that things had developed to this point and there was no room for negotiation, Gu Dafeng suddenly felt like laughing. How did things end up in this direction? Gu Dajiang was pushed out by Gu Yundong to the toilet door. Gu Dajiang immediately covered his nose. Yundong, I'm your biological father. Look, you can't take it anymore and have to cover your nose. You'll have to face 5 exams in the future. Won't you break down? It's precisely because you're my biological father that I'm so considerate of you. Thank you, but no. Gu Dajiang wanted to leave, but Gu Yundong stood firmly behind him. Father, it's said that only through hardship can one rise above others. The imperial examination is a long and arduous path. This is just a little stench. You have to overcome it. Gu Dajiang was speechless. He didn't want his daughter anymore. He could not win against Gu Yundong. In short, no matter what reason he had, Gu Yundong could find something to refute. In the end, Father Tong and Shui Rong moved a table and chair to the toilet. Gu Dajiang sat there aggrievedly. The veins on his hand that was holding the brush throbbed, and he almost showed everyone how to break the brush with his bare hands. Gu Yundong was quite satisfied, but the others standing behind her were holding back their laughter. Gu Dafeng couldn't hold it in anymore. She quickly turned her head away, but her shoulders were heaving. Madame Yang and Yinka did not understand what was going on and also giggled. Yin Shu pulled Zhuangzi's arm and took a few steps back. She said softly, "Do we have to read and write like this for the preparation scholar exam?" Bian Yuanji rubbed his head in confusion. "I didn't hear the teacher say that." Gu Yunshu shrank her neck. "My elder sister is too terrifying." The two little fellows still had lingering fears. They were already thinking about how to avoid this cruel method when they took the exam. However, Gu Yundong felt that she had solved a huge problem in her heart and began to think about other things. There was no need to worry about food. It was just a day of exams. He could still fill his stomach for more than half a day with some pastries and bread. Gu Yundong thought of everything she could think of and felt that she had missed nothing. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. In the next few days, she focused on preparing. By the end of the month, Gu Dajiang's 10 clothes were completed. Gu Yundong took it from eldest Aunt Gu and compared it. It was not bad. The outermost piece was exceptionally wide, so it should not be too tight. Gu Yundong carried the pile of clothes to look for Gu Dajiang. However, just as she reached the courtyard, she bumped into him. "Father, why do you smell so bad?" Gu Yundong took a few steps back. Gu Dajiang's eyes suddenly turned sinister as he sneered at Gu Yundong. The latter suddenly reacted. Oh no, it seemed like she did it. She immediately turned around and ran away with her clothes. Gu Dajiang snorted and returned to his room to shower and change. After more than an hour, Gu Yundong came back quietly with his clothes. She originally thought that Gu Dajiang would not be around. Unexpectedly, when she arrived at the main house, she saw her father trying on a piece of clothing. Madame Yang was looking at him with glowing eyes, as if she liked him very much. Gu Yundong was surprised. "Father, where did you get this outfit? Why are you dressed so festively? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 959, What does other people getting married have to do with you? Madame Yang was helping him tidy up his sleeves. She also looked very happy, not letting go of even the slightest wrinkle. Gu Dajiang glanced sideways at Gu Yundong and said, "Jiang Bao and the Shi family's daughter are getting married. Don't tell me you've forgotten." "Of course I didn't forget. Isn't it the day after tomorrow?" Gu Yundong was suspicious. "But what does her marriage have to do with you wearing new clothes?" Gu Dajiang was smug. "They invited me to be their witness." Witness? When did this happen? Why didn't she know? Seeing that her father's new clothes were prepared so neatly, he must have received the news long ago. Was he deliberately not telling her? Was he taking revenge on her for letting him stay near the toilet? He was already so old. How childish. Gu Yundong snorted softly, but she was still very surprised. However, what she did not know was that Jiang Bao's first consideration was Gu Yundong. Speaking of which, Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan were more or less matchmakers for him and Lan Huaner. If she hadn't hired Zhuangzi, if Boss Xiao hadn't hired Jiang Bao, the two of them wouldn't have known each other. Naturally, Zhuangzi wouldn't have introduced the girl to her. Therefore, to them, Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan were matchmakers, benefactors, and esteemed guests. However, Xiao Qingyuan was not around. Gu Yundong was not married after all. It was not appropriate for her to be a witness. Hence, after some thought, Jiang Bao thought of Gu Dajiang. This was Boss Gus's biological father and Boss Xiao's future father-in-law. He was also a scholar. It was said that he would be participating in the imperial examination soon. At that time, he would be the elementary scholar. Their witness was the elementary scholar. If word got out, wouldn't it be glorious? Hence, the Shi couple and the Jiang family came to invite Gu Dajiang. This was the first time Gu Dajiang was a witness. For some reason, he was a little excited. Hence, on the day of Jiang Bao and Lan Hua's wedding, he woke up early. After dressing up, he got Shui Rong to put on a carriage and went to the Jiang family village. As the witness, Gu Dajiang naturally had to go to the man's side. Gu Yundong brought the rest of the Gu family to the Shi residence. Gu Dafeng and his husband did not go. After all, they did not have much of a relationship with the newlywed couple. In addition, Bian Han's leg was inconvenient. There were too many people, and it was easy to get injured if they squeezed around. When the Shi family got married, the entire village became lively. In the past, Shi Dashan and his wife were timid, and Zhuangzi was a hooligan. Lan Hua was the only sensible and smart one in the family. However, no matter how smart she was, having such a family would also drag her down. Therefore, when families with slightly better conditions were looking for a wife, they would not consider Lan Hua. However, in less than a year, the Shi family had changed drastically. Lan Hua had married into a good family. She heard that Jiang Bao was going to the prefectural city soon. This time, most of the people in the village came to the Shi family's treat. When Gu Yundong entered, it was already bustling with noise and excitement. Many villagers came over to help. Some were cooking, some were carrying tables. Most of them knew Gu Yundong. When they saw her family coming, they raised their hands to greet her. Gu Yundong nodded and responded to them one by one. Then, she brought the children to see the bride. Lan Hua sat in her room. The Shi family had renovated the house. She had a separate room, and it was quite big. Hence, when Gu Yundong entered, there were already many people sitting in the room. However, there were a few familiar faces. They were ladies and women from the village, and some were complete strangers. They were probably relatives of the Shi family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 960, Gu Yundong adds makeup. When Lan Hua saw Gu Yundong, she quickly stood up. Gu Yundong quickly made her sit down. Sit properly. Don't mess up the wedding dress. I just brought a few children over to take a look. They all said they wanted to see the bride. As she spoke, she lowered her head and looked at Yunshu, Yunke, Yuanji, and Lu Hongqiao. The few of them stuck half their heads out from behind her. Their faces were a little red and they looked a little embarrassed. The bride is so beautiful. Young Lady Yunke was the sweetest. She took a few steps forward and raised her small head. Her eyes were shining as she watched. She could not bear to move. Lan Hua was embarrassed by her gaze. She quickly picked up the candy beside her and fed her one. Kiki looks good too. Come, eat the wedding candy. Yes, it's delicious. Thank you, Sister Lan Hua. Lan Hua also distributed wedding candy to the other children, including Gu Yundong. The Shi family's conditions were better now, and they had a lot of sweets, but they couldn't give them away casually. After all, sweets were really expensive. The children took the candy and looked at the bride. They were immediately chased out by Gu Yundong. When I came over just now, I saw Niu Dan and Zhengli playing outside. You guys should hurry up and join them too. The few of them immediately dispersed and ran out of the door. Gu Yundong took out a red packet and handed it to Lan Hua. Take this. I wish you a happy marriage and a happy life with Jiang Bao. Then, she took out a silver hairpin to add makeup to her appearance. After that, Gu Yundong left the room with Madame Yang. As soon as she left, everyone in the room surrounded her and stared at the hairpin with burning eyes. Yundong is so generous. This hairpin doesn't look cheap. Let me see, let me see. Io, with this amount and this style, it must be no less than 3 taels of silver. Lan Hua, this is your dowry. You have to keep it well. That's right, that's right. Don't lose it. Otherwise, you'll cry to death and let boss Gu down. Lan Huar was originally very relaxed, but when they said that, she was immediately extremely nervous. For a moment, she did not know where to put the hairpin. Until a soft sneer sounded in the corner. You guys are really funny. Such a lousy hairpin is almost like a treasure. That Miss Gu is so rich, why didn't she give you a gold gift? I heard that those rich families offer a complete set of makeups for the bride. You guys can even brag about a hairpin. It's strange. As soon as she said this, the room fell silent. Everyone looked at the girl who spoke in unison and frowned. Lan Huar also frowned. Her personality was different from her parents, especially those who made her unhappy on her wedding day. She would not be polite. It's better than nothing. This person was a cousin of hers called He Shou. She was the same age as her. In the past, she looked down on her family and would poke fun at them from time to time. Later, Zhuangzi became a clerk in the county. The Shi family's days were getting better and better. This cousin of hers had other thoughts and wanted to marry Zhuangzi. Unfortunately, Zhuangzi was focused on his goal of becoming the shopkeeper. He did not even know who He Shou was. Moreover, Shi Dashan and his wife did not like He Shou. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. However, a few months ago, the He family found out that Zhuangzi had become the shopkeeper. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 961, Prestigious Shopkeeper. In this day and age, anyone who could be a shopkeeper was old. A young man like Zhuangzi would have to work for at least 10 years before he could reach that step. It had been less than a year since he became a shop assistant, right? The He family was excited and ran over to matchmake Zhuangzi and He Shou. The Shi couple would not agree either. The He family's parents almost fell out with them. No matter what they said, they could not get them to agree. Later on, they came up with a bad idea. They simply let He Shou go to Gus's shop to meet Zhuangzi. The two of them would meet more in private. When Zhuangzi had a good impression of He Shou, it would be useless even if the Shi couple wanted to object. He Shou did go to the shop in the county city and saw Zhuangzi arrogantly instructing Chen Jinkai to work. She felt that it was especially impressive and imagined having a maidservant for her to order around in the future. Hence, she was even more determined to get Zhuangzi. After entering the shop, she felt very immersed and also instructed Chen Jinkai. Chen Jinkai tolerated Zhuangzi because Zhuangzi was only putting on an act on the surface. In fact, he had helped him a lot. This was the way the two of them interacted. But where did this woman called He Shou come from? It was simply baffling. Then, He Shou was chased out by Chen Jinkai. Zhuangzi looked on coldly and even gloated. These relatives of the He family were really ugly. Zhuangzi had never liked them in the past. When his parents were in trouble, they would avoid them and hit them when they were down. Now, seeing that Zhuangzi's family's lives were getting better and better, they rushed to curry favor with them, which made Zhuangzi extremely disgusted. Therefore, no matter what He Shou's personality was, Zhuangzi would not consider it. Although he had become the shopkeeper, Zhuangzi was still not stingy. He went straight to He Shou's village to look for the He family's parents. If they let He Shou pester him again, he would make a fuss that the entire village would know and make He Shou unable to marry in the future. If He Shou had the guts to marry him, he would also have the guts to beat her to death. As for being filial to his parents-in-law, don't even think about it. He Shou's family really felt that he could do it. They were a little timid. After weighing it for a while, they still felt that they should let it go. Hence, they restrained He Shou and stopped her from looking for Zhuangzi. Lan Huar did not expect He Shou to make things difficult for her here. With her temperament, she actually looked down on Gu Yundong's gift? What a joke. He Shou was a little angry after being rebuked by Lan Huar. She stood up and wanted to quarrel with her. However, she was quickly suppressed by her sister-in-law. Stop it. Today is Lan Hua's big day. If you make a fuss, Zhuangzi will be the first to not let you off. It's not like you don't know Zhuangzi's temper. He Xiao took 2 deep breaths and endured it. In the end, she did not say anything. However, after lowering her head, her eyes darted around and her gaze landed on the hairpin. The He family's sister-in-law immediately changed the topic, and everyone looked away from He Xiao. The chattering in the room quickly became lively again. Not long after, there was a sudden commotion outside. Immediately after, a child ran in and shouted, "The groom is here! The groom is here!" He rode a tall horse over. He's so awe-inspiring. Everyone in the room stood up and chuckled as they asked Lan Hua to quickly cover her head. After a while, there was even more noise outside. There were a lot of people in the room. Soon, a portion of them went out. He Xiao also squeezed out of the crowd. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 962, Madame Yang is a fool. However, no one realized that He Xiao had something in her hand when she went out. Jiang Bao was blocked outside the door by Zhuangzi, Big Qian, and Gosheng. One moment, they wanted him to flip around, and the next moment, they wanted him to recite poetry. The onlookers were overjoyed. However, Zhuangzi thought that he knew a few words and even pretended to come up with couplets, causing Yunshu and the children to laugh. Jiang Bao was quick-witted. In addition, he called Ah Go, a skilled person, over to help. Not long after, the people in the courtyard could not stop them and let them in. Yundong stood in the crowd and watched the commotion. She suddenly thought of Xiao Qingyuan. She didn't know when he would be back, but she had received a letter from him 2 days ago. He only said that everything was going well and that he would try his best to rush back. After all, it was a messenger pigeon. It was not appropriate to write some confidential information on it. Yundong slowly exhaled. When he looked over again, he saw that Jiang Bao had already been escorted into the bride's room by everyone. Soon, he carried the bride out. The group of people cheered over there, as if they had married a wife. Jiang Bao had specially gotten someone to carry a bridal sedan chair over. In this day and age, when one got married in the countryside, those who were really poor would directly walk back. Those with slightly better conditions would drive a carriage over to pick the wife up. It was the first time in Yongfu village that someone like Jiang Bao rode a tall horse and got someone to carry a red sedan chair. Update by N0 of Go. C0 The villagers were extremely envious, especially those young wives. When they thought about how their weddings had been cold and cheerless previously, but Lan Hua could sit in the bridal sedan chair, their hearts itched. Lan Hua will enjoy life in the future. That's right. Who would have thought that the Shi family would have such good fortune a year ago? The Shi family is lucky. They're following the Gu family now. When Lan Hua returns to the family, I heard that Zhuangzi and the Shi family's son-in-law are going to the prefectural city. He Xiao was very disdainful when she heard this. Just wait. She wanted to see if the Gu family would always take care of the Shi family in the future. Lan Hua was taken away. Shi Dashan and his wife were reluctant, and their eyes were red. Even though Jiang Bao had repeatedly promised to take good care of Lan Hua and not let her suffer, they were still worried. It was only when the bridal sedan was further and further away and could no longer be seen that Shi Dashan turned around and started to call everyone into the courtyard to eat. Yundong sat at the head of the table with Madame Yang beside her. However, Madame Yang was a child. After eating, she got off the table and went to play with Yunka. Yundong let her be and only let Lu Hongxiu keep an eye on her. When He Xiao saw Madame Yang leave, she hurriedly swallowed the meat in her mouth. She put down her chopsticks reluctantly and hurriedly followed. Madame Yang liked to play with children. In the past, there were children who secretly scolded her for being a fool. Later on, the Gu family became better and better, and Yundong became more and more domineering. These children were reminded by the adults not to offend the Gu family. Moreover, because Yunshu was good at her studies and had a lot of experience, she had vaguely become the king of children in this village. Therefore, when Madame Yang came over, the children were also very friendly to her. However, He Xiu frowned. It was mainly because Lu Hongxiu was watching over Madame Yang, so she couldn't find a chance to get close to her. He Xiu had already thought it through. Madame Yang was a fool. She was easy to deceive and trust. She would tell Madame Yang that the hairpin belonged to the Gu family and was worth a lot of money. It was a pity to give it to someone else. Wouldn't it be good to leave it for her daughter as a dowry in the future? She could make her daughter proud later. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 963. Approaching Madame Yang. He Xiu had heard that Madame Yang doted on Gu Yundong very much. Even if she was a fool, she would protect her daughter. Therefore, it was definitely not a problem for her to encourage Madame Yang to bring the hairpin back. Of course, she had already secretly taken out the hairpin and placed it somewhere easy to obtain. This way, Madame Yang would be a thief. Gu Yundong would definitely not be able to tell anyone about this. Otherwise, it would ruin her mother's reputation. That hairpin could not be used in the future. It could not be seen by everyone. It could only be hidden forever. As for Lan Huar, she would definitely find out that the hairpin was missing when she counted the dowry the next day. Considering how much she valued the Gu family, she definitely had to find this hairpin. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to explain herself if the Gu family asked about it in the future. Of course, if she did not want to make a fuss, she still had him, right? She could still make a fuss by pushing him from behind. That fool, Madame Yang, might even shout it out herself. In that case, it would be strange if the Gu family and the Shi family could continue to be friends. Ha 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 ha, He Xiu couldn't help but laugh at the thought. And yet, she had a good plan, but that brat Lu Hongxiu had been following Madame Yang, so she had no way to do anything. He Xiu was a little anxious. If this continued, Gu Yundong and the rest would finish their banquet. After a while, her eyes suddenly darted around. She simply pulled a girl about her age along and joined the children in playing. The children were stunned for a moment, but Madame Yang was very happy. After all, these children were shorter than her. She was overjoyed that the two newcomers were as tall as her. Lu Hongxiu, who was standing at the back, narrowed her eyes slightly. She was not following Madame Yang. As long as Madame Yang was in her line of sight, there was nothing to worry about. She just felt that this girl who suddenly appeared beside Madame Yang was strange. Lu Hongxiu was meticulous, so she paid more attention. Soon, she realized that this girl would come to Madame Yang's side from time to time and mutter. She looked like she was joking, but the scheme in her eyes could not be hidden from her. After all, He Xiu was inexperienced. It was not enough to play tricks in front of Lu Hongxiu. Lu Hongxiu did not know what she wanted to do and could only watch. However, she still called her sister, Lu Hongxiao, over and asked her to inform Mississippi Gu Yundong had already finished eating, but she could not leave halfway. In addition, the person at the table had been talking to her, so she could only continue to sit. Unexpectedly, Lu Hongxiao ran over and secretly told her that someone had designs on Madame Yang. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. TSK, someone actually had designs on her mother again. Last time, there was Jiang Yongkang. Who was so blind this time? She just didn't know if they wanted to harm her mother or if they wanted her help. Gu Yundong got up, informed Shi Dashan and his wife, and followed Lu Hongxiao out. Lu Hongxiu was standing outside the door. When she saw her, she hurriedly called out, "Mississippi." "Yes, how's my mother?" "Who's the person who approached her?" Unexpectedly, Lu Hongxiu had a strange expression on her face. She looked at Gu Yundong as if she wanted to say something but hesitated. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows and looked forward, but she did not see Madame Yang. "Where's my mother?" She frowned. Lu Hongxiu was not with Madame Yang? "It's over there." I'll bring Miss over." As Lu Hongxiu spoke, she led Gu Yundong to a corner not far away. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 964. I squeezed it back before she reached the corner of the wall. She heard begging sounds coming from inside. The voice wasn't loud. When she got closer, she could vaguely hear the words, "Stop hitting me." Hit? Gu Yundong frowned and turned to look at Lu Hongxiu. The latter nodded and said, "It's the girl called He Xiu." Gu Yundong took a few steps forward and turned the corner. He saw a few children surrounding a girl, their little fists landing on her. Yunshu snorted. "Who asked you to bully my mother? Do you think we're blind? How dare you be so unscrupulous in front of me? It'll be unfilial if I don't hit you." "Yes, unfilial." Yunka swung her fist and hit He Xiu's shoulder hard. It was just that her position was not very good, and her own hand hurt to death. The little girl immediately changed her leg and kicked her. He Xiu had a ball of cloth in her mouth and was trying hard to spit it out. She finally shook it off and quickly said, "Let go of me quickly, or I'll call for help." At this moment, her hand was pressed back by Madame Yang. Madame Yang was very strong. She was used to doing farm work in the past. Now that her family's conditions were better, she still liked to do it, especially those potted plants. It took a lot of strength to move them around. There was nothing wrong with restraining a little girl like He Xiu. As for the children surrounding He Xiu, other than Yunshu, Yunka, and Yuanji, there were also Zhengyu, Zhenglu, and Miao Dan from the Zheng family. However, only Yunshu and the other two attacked. The others acted as a wall and surrounded He Xiu. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. After watching silently for a while, she finally said, "What happened?" The few of them turned around at the same time. Madame Yang couldn't help but loosen her grip. He Xiu immediately took the opportunity to escape and took 2 steps back. Now that her hands and feet were free, He Xiu immediately said, "Miss Gu, you saw it with your own eyes. I was blocked here by your mother and your brother and sister. Look at my clothes. They're all footprints from their kicks. My body hurts to death. If I walk out now, others will know that they're bullying me with numbers. I'm afraid your Gu family's reputation will be ruined." Oh, the guilty party was the first to complain. Gu Yundong found it funny. "Why did they hit you? What else could it be?" "Naturally, they flew into a rage out of humiliation because I didn't give in to your mother when we were playing." "Nonsense." Yunshu immediately retorted. She said to Gu Yundong, "Eldest sister, she has ulterior motives. She actually wanted to instigate mother to steal. She has evil intentions. We can't let her off easily." "I didn't," He Xiu immediately retorted. Madame Yang snorted heavily. "Yes, you did. You told me yourself. You said that you wanted me to take back the hairpin Dongdong gave to Laner. That belongs to Dongdong. You even know where the hairpin is." As she spoke, she looked at Gu Yundong and said proudly, "She still treats me as a 3-year-old child. How could I fall for such a trick?" Gu Yundong nodded. "Mother is the best." Madame Yang agreed. "That's right. Dongdong said that what she gave away belongs to someone else. How can I take it back? That's called going back on your word and being despised. How can I let Dongdong be despised? So I rejected her very firmly. I didn't expect, she actually called me a fool and even pinched me." Yunka raised her hand. "I saw it, so I pinched her back." "I pinched her back too," Madame Yang said impatiently. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 965. Big Sister is right. Yunshu and Yuanji, who were standing at the side, also nodded vigorously. "We've all pinched her back." Gu Yundong, Big Sis said that we can't be quiet when we're being bullied, especially when the situation is advantageous to us. There are so many of us, and we're on our own territory. I'm also a future martial arts expert. There's no reason for me to not retaliate when someone attacks, right? Yunshu had always treated Gu Yundong's words as a wise saying, and he carried it out very thoroughly. As for martial arts master, this was something he had self-proclaimed. Ever since the accident that almost cost Tong in his life, Yunshu had been very active in practicing martial arts with him. Yuanji was the same. However, while Yunshu was very good at studying, his talent in martial arts was really ordinary. Still, he was very hardworking and firmly believed that he would definitely be an expert in the future. Gu Yundong nodded. You're right. As expected of what she had taught him. It was very good. However, He Xiu, who was at the side, almost vomited blood. Indeed, she had only pinched Madame Yang, but that was not serious. It was not heavy at all and did not hurt her. In the end, these brats had pinched her arm until it was bruised. Even now, she still felt a dull pain. What was worse was that not only did they push her into this corner, but they also taught her a lesson. He Xiu was filled with regret. Madame Yang was not an ordinary fool. Gu Yundong looked at He Xiu. So, you want to scheme against my mother, right? And I gave that hairpin to Lan Huar. It should have gone to the Jiang family with Lan Huar now. Why is it still here? Did you steal it? He Xiu's heart skipped a beat and she quickly looked up. Unexpectedly, she met Gu Yundong's sharp gaze and immediately defended herself. I didn't, Miss Gu. Do you believe what they say? The children just don't like me and are messing with me. I've never said anything about a hairpin. Never. If you don't believe me, look at your mother. Do you see any traces of me pinching her? After saying that, she wanted to walk out. Forget it, I won't argue with the children. I'm unlucky. Can I leave? He Xiu wanted to leave before Gu Yundong could react. Unfortunately, just as she turned around, Tong Shuitao stood behind her. Immediately after, Gu Yundong's faint voice sounded from behind. You're a guest of the Shi family. You clearly know the relationship between the Shi family and my family, but you still want to use that hairpin to frame my family. You have a grudge with the Shi family and want to sow discord, right? Tell me, where is that hairpin? He Xiu's expression changed. She wanted to leave, but her path was blocked. She wanted to defend herself, but Gu Yundong seemed to have guessed her intentions. She rolled her eyes and immediately wanted to shout at the top of her lungs, help. Before she could finish speaking, Gu Yundong struck her from behind and knocked her out. Tong Shuitao caught her and asked Gu Yundong, Miss, how should we deal with this? This is a guest of the Shi family, and the Shi family's banquet isn't over yet. Take her home first. Later, call Shi Dashan and the others over and see what they plan to do. Yes. After Tong Shuitao finished speaking, she carried He Xiu back to the Gu family as if she was carrying a dead person. The Shi family's banquet was at noon. At this moment, they were almost done eating. Other than a few women from the same village who helped, only their close relatives were still there. The sister-in-law of the He family was there, but she could not find He Xiu at this moment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 966, Crying from Her Foolishness. The He family's parents also came, but they had something to do at home. They quickly went back after eating, leaving the He family's eldest sister-in-law to find He Xiu and bring her back. However, now that He Xiu could not be found, she immediately became anxious and quickly went to look for Shi Dashan and his wife. It was at this moment that Tong Shuitao came to the door and told them about He Xiu. When Shi Dashan heard that He Xiu had actually schemed against Madame Yang to ruin his daughter's marriage, he was furious. He quickly went to the Gu residence with his wife, He Yi, and brought the He family's eldest sister-in-law along. The He family's eldest sister-in-law was dumbfounded. She only found out what had happened from He Yi on the way to the Gu family. She was so angry that she almost collapsed. She wished she could turn around and go home quickly so that her in-laws could take her sister-in-law away. What was going on? Was He Xiu's brain damaged? It was fine if she caused trouble for the Shi family. After all, He Yi was her aunt. If she made a mistake, she could put the matter behind her. But she actually had designs on the Gu family to scheme against Madame Yang? Over the course of the day, the He family's eldest sister-in-law had heard everything about the Gu family. She knew that the Gu family had fled from the famine and that her family was the richest in the entire village. She knew that Gu Yundong had dared to tie someone to a tree and slap them before she had her current achievements. She knew that Gu Yundong knew the nobles in the prefecture. There were too many rumors about the Gu family. How could He Xiu provoke such a person who could subdue a hooligan like Zhuangzi? They did not even dare to offend Zhuangzi. How could they have the courage to offend Gu Yundong? She was simply about to cry from her sister-in-law's stupidity. However, even though the dissatisfaction in her heart had reached its peak, the He family's eldest sister-in-law still had to bite the bullet and go to the Gu family to bring her out. Coincidentally, when they arrived at the Gu residence, He Xiu had also woken up. When she saw the He family's sister-in-law, she immediately cried and defended herself. However, the He family's eldest sister-in-law clearly did not believe her words and she did not know what to do. Gu Yundong's ears hurt from the noise. She frowned and said, "All right, shut up. You said you're innocent, right? That's simple. There are many people coming and going in the Her family today. There are many guests. Someone must have seen you hide the hairpin. I'm not afraid of trouble. Later, find everyone. I'll ask them one by one. Someone will be able to tell me the truth." He Xiu immediately did not dare to speak. When she hid the hairpin, she had really met a few people. Also, someone had seen the hairpin in her hand before, but they did not look at it very carefully. Moreover, that person was not in Lan Huar's room at that time. He did not know that Gu Yundong had given Lan Huar a hairpin to add makeup, so he did not suspect anything. However, if the matter really blew up and those people associated everything, what could they not understand? Her reputation would be completely ruined. He Xiu was silent. Everyone present knew that she had tacitly agreed. He was very angry. She had an honest personality, but no matter how honest she was, she had a reverse scale. Lan Huar was one. This person actually wanted to cause trouble on Lan Huar's wedding day and even stole the hairpin to frame Madame Yang. Not only did she want to harm Lan Huar, but she also wanted to harm Zhuangzi. He pounced over and started punching He Xiu. "Are you human? Are you human? You're so young, but you're so vicious. I don't have a niece like you." Xianxia was also angry, but this was He's niece. He was only a remote relative, so it was not appropriate for him to make a move. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 967, different from what I thought. Hence, only the eldest daughter-in-law of the He family went up to stop her. "Aunt, calm down first. It's indeed He Xiu's fault. Can you get her to apologize to you?" He Xiu dodged twice but failed. She wanted to retaliate, but she was glared at by the He family's sister-in-law. Coupled with Xianxia's shout, she allowed He to hit her again. When He was pulled away, Gu Yundong asked, "Uncle Shi, how do you plan to deal with this matter?" Xianxia and He looked at each other. How should they deal with it? To be honest, they could not do anything to He Xiu. After all, they were all relatives. In addition, Lan Huar had gotten married smoothly. They could just take the hairpin back. However, she still couldn't calm down. Therefore, He looked at He Xiu fiercely and said, "I won't have a niece like you in the future. From now on, don't come to my house again. My house doesn't welcome you." He Xiu lowered her head and secretly pursed her lips. If she was not welcomed, so be it. Who cared? Anyway, the Shi family couldn't do anything to her. He Xiu was a little smug. She pulled the He family's sister-in-law. "Let's go. Since we're done, let's go home. I'm in so much pain." Gu Yundong smiled. "Who said you can leave? The Shi family has been done, but I'm not done here." Gu Yundong naturally had no control over what the Shi couple wanted to do. Moreover, with their temperaments, that was the most they could do. However, she did not know what Zhuangzi would do after he returned from the Jiang family. You're not done yet? My body is covered in bruises from your beatings. What else do you want? Do you want me to lose an arm or a leg? He Xiao was furious. She was about to reveal her arm and let others see her injury. However, there were men present. The He family's eldest sister-in-law quickly pressed her down. Gu Yundong smiled and said, "You were the one who pinched my mother first, so we returned it to you. But it's not so easy to get over the fact that you schemed against my mother. These are two different things, okay?" He Xiao had never seen such a shameless person. What do you want? Gu Yundong looked at Madame Yang. Mother, she schemed against you. What do you want to do? Madame Yang was a little confused. Yunshu and Yunka immediately went to her side to give her ideas. After a long while, Madame Yang finally decided. She said seriously, "I want her to stand at our door and shout 'I'm a big fool' 3 times. Gu Yundong, so you guys discussed for so long and came to this conclusion? At least ask her for compensation for mental damage, right?" But seeing that Madame Yang, Yunshu, and Yunka seemed quite satisfied, Gu Yundong could only rub her forehead and agree. He Xiao screamed, "Are you guys crazy? I'm not going." If she did as she was told, how would she have any face in the future? Yongfu village was not far from her village. Later, all the villagers would know. How could she get married? Gu Yundong did not care. If you don't do it, then prepare to go back without an arm or a leg. You're going too far. Don't do things whose consequences are unbearable. If she had not targeted Madame Yang first, Gu Yundong would not have known who she was. He Xiao was unwilling. The He family's eldest sister-in-law quickly pulled her to the side to persuade her. After a long time, He Xiao finally nodded with a red face and trembling body. As expected, she ran to the entrance of the Gu residence and shouted 3 times. Then, before the onlookers could appear, she quickly ran away. Madame Yang, Yunshu, and Yunka were speechless. Why was it different from what they had imagined? Shouldn't there be many people watching the show? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 968, Compensation. Gu Yundong wanted to laugh. She shrugged and said, "This is your choice. Now, they should know that when they wanted to punish others in the future, they should consider it carefully, right?" And he had left, but Gu Yundong had also found out the whereabouts of the hairpin from He Xiao. She said to Shi Dashan and his wife, "The hairpin is hidden under the bed in Lan Huar's room. You should be able to find it when you go back. If you find it, bring it over. It's not easy for you to go to the Jiang family. I'll get Shui Tao to make a trip and come back with my father and the others. It won't attract anyone's attention." "Thank you, boss." Gu Yundong waved her hand. Shi Dashan and his wife were still a little ashamed. After all, it was their relatives who caused this. If not for the Gu family's bright minds, they would have really suffered. The 2 of them quickly returned home. There were still some guests at home, so they stayed behind to help eat dinner. While Shi Dashan was entertaining them, he found the hairpin and rushed to the Gu residence. Just like that, a small storm subsided until Zhuangzi returned. He came back very late. As the brother-in-law, he had to stay at the Jiang family's wedding banquet after sending her off. He was forced to drink a lot and was dizzy. He only woke up the next day. Unexpectedly, when he woke up and heard his parents mention the hairpin, he exploded on the spot. After washing his face, Zhuangzi went straight to the He family. He was not someone to be trifled with, especially when it came to the He family, who did not treat them as family at all. He kicked over the basket in the He family's courtyard. Then, he asked He Xiao for compensation, but the He family refused. He even scolded Zhuangzi for being unfilial and disrespectful to his elders. Zhuangzi almost broke his hand. In any case, his sister was already married, and he was not in a hurry to get married. He did not care about reputation at all. He directly started fighting with his uncle. He was no match for him at all. In the end, the others in the He family could only give him 1 tael of silver as compensation. Zhuangzi took the silver and even stole an old hen in the courtyard before he left. This is to calm my parents down. Who asked He Xiao to scare them yesterday? You, uncle. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. In the future, the He family will have nothing to do with your mother. We won't be relatives anymore. Well, sever our ties. Zhuangzi sneered. I can't wait. Who cares about you guys? He had long wanted to cut ties with them. Ever since the 2 elders of the He family passed away, Uncle He had treated it as if he did not exist. When the Shi family was in trouble, the He family had cut ties with them long ago. They had not interacted with each other for more than 10 years. What was the difference from cutting ties? Now that Zhuangzi's family had become rich, they started to rush over to take advantage of them. It was better not to have such relatives. Zhuangzi took the silver and carried the old hen home. When he told his parents about this, Dajiang had the same thoughts as Zhuangzi. However, He's eyes were red and she felt very uncomfortable. No matter what, that man was her biological brother. Now that she had come this far, she felt as if she had been alone when she came to this world. Zhuangzi scratched his head. He did not know how to comfort her, so he simply left the house. He left the old hen behind and went to the Gu family with the tael of silver. Boss, the He family compensated you with this silver. Take it. Gu Yundong glanced at the silver and took it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 969, Zhuangzi's decision. Zhuangzi scratched his head and said, there's one more thing. What is it? Zhuangzi found it difficult to speak. He could not help but scratch his head again, as if he was organizing his words appropriately. Gu Yundong did not rush him. He went about his own business. After nearly 15 minutes, Zhuangzi took a deep breath and said, Boss, I think I want to bring my parents to the prefectural city too. Gu Yundong was stunned. Bring your parents with you? Yes. Once he opened his mouth, it was much easier to continue. I've asked around. The rent for a slightly smaller house in the prefecture capital is about 1 to 2 taels a month. When I live with Jiang Bao, the rent is originally half each. If I bring my parents over together, I'll pay a little more. That's right, that way, my parents won't be able to continue working in the boss orchard. This was also the reason why he had been hesitating and did not know how to speak. Gu Yundong's fingers tapped lightly on the table. She looked up at Zhuangzi and asked, Did you make this decision because of the He family? Zhuangzi said, half and half. One reason is that the He family is not easy to get along with. If I leave, they might cause trouble again. You know my parents. They might hold it in when they are bullied. If we can take a step back, we will. The other reason is that after Lan Hua is married, it won't be easy for her to come home. There's a long journey to the prefectural city, and I can only come back once every year and a half. I'm afraid that they'll be alone at home. It won't feel good. Gu Yundong smiled. Zhuangzi was indeed a filial person. Although his previous actions were repulsive, after he became a hooligan, he did not let Dajiang and his wife continue to be bullied and taken advantage of. She thought for a moment. There's no big problem with the fruit forest. Just let Zhao Zhu manage it. If he can't handle it, just hire more helpers. However, have you calculated your cost if you have to bring your parents to the prefectural city? Other than the rent of the house, there's also food and clothing. It's not easy for you to earn money alone to support 3 people in the prefectural city. Zhuangzi was vexed. He had calculated this cost before. It was indeed a little difficult. At the very least, it would be difficult for him to save money again. Gu Yundong continued, also, have you thought about it? Your parents like to plant and take care of fruit trees. This is something they like. If they are brought to the prefectural city and can only stay at home all day to cook, wash, and chat with others, will they live comfortably? Zhuangzi's body stiffened. Yes, that was the biggest problem. Upped at TE by Nov 0. C0 he wanted his parents not to work too hard and enjoy life, but he also wanted them to do what they liked to do. However, how could anyone get all the good things in this world? Zhuangzi immediately felt conflicted. In that case, he couldn't bring his parents to the prefectural city? Could it be that he would continue to stay in the county city as a shopkeeper and let Chen Jinkai go to the prefectural city to be a shop assistant? However, he had already promised his boss that everything had been arranged. There was no reason for him to go back on his word. Seeing that a large amount of hair on his forehead was about to be pulled off, Yundong smiled and said, I have an idea here. Do you want to hear it? Yes, of course. Zhuangzi's eyes suddenly lit up. The boss was smart. Her idea would definitely be the best of both worlds. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 970, Let's go together. Yundong said, we have a manor on the outskirts of the prefectural city. It's used to grow fruit trees and medicinal herbs. Your parents like to grow fruits, so it's just right to go there. In her opinion, Dajiang and his wife were the best at planting trees. Last time, she had also walked around the manor. Although those fruit trees were growing well, the taste of the fruits could not compare to the ones planted by Dajiang and his wife. She could tell if she ate a few. However, such technical talents could only be chanced upon by luck. If Dajiang and his wife went to the manor, it would be a good idea. With Zhao Zhu here, he would interact more with Dajiang and have a certain amount of experience in taking care of fruit trees. Letting Dajiang and his wife leave at this time would not result in a bad outcome. That farmstead is outside the city, and there's a place to stay in it. If you want to see your parents, you'll be there soon after leaving the city. It's much closer than Yongfu village. The more Zhuangzi listened, the brighter his eyes became. Yes, yes. If it was just outside the city, it would be equivalent to the distance from the county to home. It was no different from now. Moreover, their parents could continue to do what they liked. Zhuangzi felt that there was no better idea than this. He immediately thanked Yundong again and again. Thank you, boss. Boss, you're the best boss in the world. I'll definitely be loyal to you for the rest of my life and work for you. Really? Yundong, no need to go that far. Had he been with Jiang Bao for too long? Had he even learned how to flatter? Zhuangzi chuckled. Yundong waved her hand. All right, hurry up and go back. You have to discuss this with your parents first and get their consent. All right, I'll go back now. After saying that, he jumped and turned to run out of the Gu residence. That day, Zhuangzi did not come again. The next day was the day Lan Hua returned home. Jiang Bao brought her back. After lunch at the Shi residence, the entire family came to the Gu residence. Yundong watched as Lan Hua combed her hair into a woman's bun and smiled shyly. From time to time, she would look into Jiang Bao's eyes. The romance between a young couple was vividly displayed. It seemed like she had been living quite well these few days. The interaction between the two was so sweet that Zhuangzi could not take it anymore. He rubbed his arms and quickly got down to business. Boss, we've already discussed it. My parents have decided to go to the manor on the outskirts of the prefectural city. They'll pack up in the next few days and come with us. Yundong nodded. This was also within her expectations. Dajiang and his wife did not have any particularly good friends in the village. In the past, they spent most of their time in the fields or at home. Especially at that time, Zhuangzi was a hooligan, so no one interacted with this family. Later on, they started to make friends, but they did not have good friends, so they did not feel reluctant. Also, Zhuangzi continued, although my parents will live in the manor in the future, Jiang Bao and I still plan to rent a house outside together. After all, Lan Hua is going to the prefecture capital with us. If Lan Hua did not go, he and Jiang Bao could live in the courtyard at the back of the shop. That would be convenient. Now that he was bringing Lan Hua along, it was not appropriate. Anyway, they were a family, so they might as well rent a house outside. Gu Yundong's face lit up. Is Lan Hua truly going there? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 971, Unexpected News, Yes. Lan Hua nodded in embarrassment. Logically speaking, she should have stayed at home to take care of her in-laws. However, Jiang Bao insisted on taking her away. They were newlyweds, and he did not want them to be separated. What was the difference between that and not being married? Although Jiang Bao's parents were a little unhappy, Jiang Bao was the most promising person in the family now. In addition, Jiang Bao's words were pleasant and he promised to give more money to the family. His parents did not force Lan Hua to stay at home. However, since Lan Hua had gone to the prefectural city, they would get the couple to quickly give birth to a child. Jiang Bao agreed immediately. In any case, he had achieved his goal. Gu Yundong laughed. Since you're also going to the prefectural city, do you want to consider becoming a female worker at New Tea Pavilion? Everyone fell silent and looked at Gu Yundong in shock. The name New Tea Pavilion was not unfamiliar to them. Although they had never seen it with their own eyes, they knew that this was a shop opened by the boss in the prefectural city. It was specially used to entertain female guests. The shopkeepers, chefs, and waiters inside were all female. Now, the boss actually wanted to hire Lan Hua as a female worker? This, Lan Hua became excited. Can I really go? Of course you can. I've wanted to find you for a long time. However, you wanted to get married previously. After you got married, I wasn't sure if you wanted to stay at home or go to the prefectural city, so I didn't say anything. Now that it's confirmed, I naturally have to ask if you're willing. Yes, of course I'm willing. As a female worker, she could earn more money. Now that she had her own small family, she would have her own children in the future. She had heard that everything in the prefectural city was expensive. If she had to rely on Jiang Bao alone to support her and her children and provide for her parents, how much pressure would that be? Hence, she had already thought about it. When she arrived at the prefectural city, she would do more embroidery to cover for the family's expenses. Although it was not much, he could at least help Jiang Bao share some of the burden. He would not be too flustered if he had some money. Unexpectedly, before she could go to the prefectural city, her boss gave her a huge surprise. It was just, "Boss, can I do it well? I don't know anything. Will I mess it up for you? If you don't know anything, then learn. Everyone learns everything from nothing." Gu Yundong felt that with Lan Hua's smartness, she was definitely much better than that Xiao Yi from before. I'll bring you to meet Su Qing later. She already has experience. If you have any questions later, just ask her. Okay. The matter was settled just like that. The Shi family was very happy. Jiang Bao brought Lan Hua home and did not mention this to his parents. They had agreed on how much money to give the family. What if the brothers at home were unhappy because Lan Hua had an extra salary and wanted him to give an extra? Jiang Bao was planning for himself. In the next few days, the Shi family and the Jiang family began to prepare to go to the prefectural city. Gu Yundong handed over the fruit trees that the Shi family was in charge of to Zhao Zhu. Zhao Zhu was very happy. The more he managed, the more capable he was. However, he had already started to hand over some to his son. Gosheng was also becoming more and more diligent. The relationship between the father and son had taken a huge step forward compared to before, and many of the knots in his heart were slowly untied. 5 days later, the Shi family and Jiang Bao with his wife placed their luggage in the carriage and prepared to head to the prefectural city. Gu Yundong had to go with her. After all, she had not been to the prefectural city since the new year. She had to look at the account book and send red packets after the new year. She had to explain things clearly. Unexpectedly, just as they were about to set off, they heard an unexpected piece of news. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know if you report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 972, the Li family's second branch. The niece of the Shi family, He Xiu, was engaged. Moreover, the person she was engaged to was from Yongfu village. The Shi family was a little stunned. What was the He family thinking? The two families had just fallen out, and the He family wanted to marry their daughter here? What kind of family was so attractive to He Xiu? Gu Yundong asked around and got an answer. Her expression immediately became strange. It was actually the Li family. The son of the second branch of the Li family. Gu Yundong did not have a good impression of the Li family, but she hated the first branch of the Li family the most. Although the second and third branches turned a blind eye to Shao Qingyuan's experiences when he was young and were dissatisfied with old Master Li doting on Shao Qingyuan, they did not persecute him too much. Therefore, Gu Yundong only treated them as strangers. Ever since she and Shao Qingyuan caused a scene in the Li family last time, the Li family's first branch did not dare to make a sound. They were like invisible people in the village and did not dare to approach the Gu family at all. It was said that they still did not dare to walk on the main road that she had built. This was also good. Only when they were afraid would they behave themselves. As for the second and third branches, they did not have much of a grudge with the Gu family. Although they were a little afraid, they wanted to earn money. Last time, they wanted to work in the Gu family's workshop, but they were rejected by Tong'an in the first round. She really did not expect the son of the second branch to be with He Xiu of the He family. When He heard this, she sighed slightly. Forget it. She has nothing to do with us anymore. It doesn't matter who she marries. Anyway, we're going to the prefectural city. We won't have many chances to meet them in the future. The Shi family members nodded. Zhuangzi was glad that he had made the decision to bring his parents to the prefectural city. Otherwise, with his parents' personality, they might have been schemed against by He Xiu. After all, she was so bold that she even dared to touch Madame Yang. If that was the case, Zhuangzi would definitely prevent her from marrying into Yongfu village. The group quickly forgot about He Xiu and went to the prefectural city happily. When they arrived at the Xuanhe prefecture, it was already late. Gu Yundong asked everyone to go to the small courtyard to rest. They would go to the shop tomorrow to arrange work. There were not many people in the small courtyard, and there was already a lot of dust. Fortunately, the Shi family, Jiang Bao, and the others were diligent people. After cleaning up for a while, they could stay. Dinner was easy to settle. When Shi Dashan came, he had brought a lot of vegetables that he had picked from the side of the house. Now, they were filled in 2 big boxes. They could easily make some meals. He Yi and Lan Huar went to the kitchen to work. Gu Yundong took this opportunity to knock on the door of the neighbor's house with a caddy of white sugar, 2 cans, and a few pastries. There was a family of 5 living here. The owner's surname was Wang, and the Wang family's son was also studying at Tianhai Academy. He had become familiar with Gu Dajiang, and the two of them often discussed knowledge together and went to the academy together. When the Gu family returned to Yongfu village, there was no one in the small courtyard, so they asked the Wang family to help take care of it. Now that Gu Yundong was back, she naturally had to thank him. When the Wang family saw that she had brought over a lot of things, they quickly declined. Gu Yundong said, "I have to go back after staying here for a few days. I still have to ask you to take care of the house. If you don't accept the gifts, I won't be able to continue troubling you." The Wang family was speechless and accepted the items. But just as Gu Yundong was about to leave, Mother Wang suddenly pulled her back and looked mysterious. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 973, Someone is looking for you, Yundong, let me tell you. When your family was not around, someone came a few times and kept wandering around your house. I don't know what he was doing. I asked a few questions, and she asked me when your family would come back. Gu Yundong was stunned. Her first reaction was to wonder if youngest Uncle Gu had been found. But on second thought, if it was youngest Uncle Gu, he must have gone to Aunt Kess' place. He wouldn't have come to the small courtyard directly. She was a little disappointed. She calmed herself down and asked, "Who was it? What did she look like?" "It's just a young woman. She's been here several times. She's been especially diligent these past 2 days." "Oh, right, when she came yesterday, there was a young lady beside her." Gu Yundong searched her mind. A young woman with a young girl, who knew the address of her small courtyard. That could only be Xiao Yuan and her mother. Gu Yundong described the appearance of the mother and daughter to Mother Wang, who nodded repeatedly. That's right. It's them." "Yundong, do you know them?" "Yes, I know them. They might be looking for our family for something. I'll go over and take a look tomorrow." Then, Gu Yundong took her leave. Early the next morning, Gu Yundong brought the Shi family to Gus and met Jiang. Gus was as busy as ever. Fortunately, there were 2 employees and there was a break. Zhuangzi's eyes lit up when he saw the shop. He secretly said to Jiang Bao, "Indeed, I made the right choice to come to the prefectural city. Look at how big this shop is and how good the business is. The prefectural city is so prosperous. In the future, becoming the shopkeeper of this prefectural city will be my goal." Jiang Bao also raised his head and looked around. Compared to the prefectural city, the difference was too great. He had just walked all the way from the small courtyard. The crowd on this street was not something the county city could compare to. As for Gus, not only were there many people coming and going, but the customers were also very generous. Other than white sugar, there was no restriction on buying preserved fruit jam, so there were especially many people buying it. No wonder the Gu family's workshop wanted to hire so many people to rush the production. At this moment, be it Jiang Bao, Zhuangzi, or even Lan Huar, they were filled with fighting spirit. Now, there were 2 shop assistants in the shop. One was Ah Shu, and the other was Su Changshan. Ah Shu was originally a temporary worker. Now that Zhuangzi was here, he was finally free. Speaking of which, he preferred to run around and did not like to stay in a shop and be busy. Gu Yundong called Su Changshan over and introduced him to Zhuangzi. "From now on, you will both be the shop assistants in this shop. Get to know each other first. You have to get along well and help each other." Su Changshan was honest, but he still nodded excitedly. On the other hand, Zhuangzi was very adaptable. After all, he had been a shopkeeper before. He instantly chatted with Su Changshan. Gu Yundong then distributed this year's open business red packets and told Jinggang about the shop's business. Then, they went to Xiao Qingyuan's pharmacy. Jiang Bao already knew Dr. Xiong. He was also familiar with Ah Zhu in the shop. In addition, he was smart and quickly integrated into the pharmacy team. Gu Yundong would not ask Dr. Xiong about the pharmacy. After all, he was focused on studying medicine. However, with Ah Zhu around, it was enough for her to know the situation of the shop. Finally, Gu Yundong brought He Yi and Lan Huar to New Tea Pavilion. New Tea Pavilion entertained the female guests, so Zhuangzi and the others stayed behind. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 974, Where's My Aunt Ku? With Madame Chiu at New Tea Pavilion, it had indeed improved greatly since her visit last time. At least the waiters wouldn't make a fuss anymore. Everything seemed to be in order. When Gu Yundong arrived, all of them stopped what they were doing and greeted her respectfully, Boss Gu. This Boss Gu was not to be trifled with at all. They still had a deep impression of what she had done in the shop last time. Whether it was the handling of the quarrel between the 2 madams or the small gifts given to every guest, it was still a hot topic. During this period of time, there were even customers who came from time to ask if there were any more paintings. They could directly spend money to buy them. It was said that all the husbands and brothers of these madams and young ladies wanted it. Unfortunately, there were no more paintings. Gu Yundong brought Lan Huar to Madame Chiu and said, "Madame Chiu, didn't you say that this new tea pavilion is still short of people? This is Lan Huar. She's from the same village as me. She's smart and has a good image. Is there a problem with her helping in this new tea pavilion? Lan Huar quickly followed Gu Yundong's instructions. With a smile on her face, she greeted obediently, "Hello, Madam Chiu." Madam Chiu nodded slightly and sized up Lan Huar, feeling slightly satisfied. She was still looking forward to the person Gu Yundong had found. At least, she was better than the people that Madame Dai and Nie Shuang had found. The waiters they brought were all servants who had signed a death contract in the residence. Admittedly, such loyal waiters would not be easily bribed. However, perhaps because they were used to being servants, they would subconsciously lower themselves when they met guests. Madame Chiu had to adjust them for a long time to change this bad habit. On the other hand, Su Qing did not have the cautious attitude of a servant. Although she also bent slightly in front of the guests, her back was straight. She even dared to raise her head in front of the guests. She was magnanimous and spoke smoothly. More importantly, she was also smart. As long as Madame Chiu gave her some pointers, she would be able to learn very quickly. She was the person Madame Chiu was most satisfied with. Now that Gu Yundong had sent over Lan Huar, Madame Chiu was already 50% satisfied when she saw the girl's refreshing appearance and clear eyes. All right, leave her behind. However, I have to say this first. If she can't satisfy me in half a month, I'll return her. Of course. We agreed that this new tea pavilion is now managed by you. Gu Yundong was confident in this. If Lan Huar was stupid, she would not have sent her over. Otherwise, wouldn't she be slapping herself in the face? Gu Yundong called Su Qing over and said to Lan Huar, "This is Su Qing. Su Changshan, whom we met earlier, is her brother. She has been working in New Tea Pavilion for a long time. If you have anything you don't understand, just ask her. There are few customers now. Let Su Qing show you around the shop first." Okay. Lan Huar was a little excited. When she entered just now, she felt that this shop was very different. She was filled with curiosity and excitement. Gu Yundong let the two of them go alone, and he followed. Then, she asked Madame Chiu about the situation at New Tea Pavilion. Madame Chiu, on the other hand, was very happy. It's very good. This milk tea shop, which is unique in the prefectural city, is very popular. If it weren't for the fact that the weather is cold and people are lazy and unwilling to go out, I'm afraid it would have been filled with people even if it was morning. Where's Aunt Ku? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 975, looking for eldest Aunt Ku was also helping out in the shop, but Gu Yundong hadn't seen her since her arrival. Madame Chiu waved her hand and lowered her voice. Sister Ku has gone to the capital. Gu Yundong was shocked. To the capital? Why? Did she go alone? When did she go? What happened? There were a lot of questions at once, and Madame Chiu could hear her anxiety and knew that she was very concerned about Aunt Ku. Therefore, she quickly said, she went there a few days ago. She and Nie Shuang went to the capital. It seemed to be about young Master Nie. Young Master Nie? Nie Tsong? Ever since she came to the prefectural city, she had not seen Nie Tsong again. Aunt Ku only said that he had been sent elsewhere by his father to train. So he had gone to the capital? Seeing that she was still frowning, Madame Chiu comforted her. Don't worry. I heard from Madame Dai that it shouldn't be a big deal, so you don't have to worry too much. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Since Madame Dai said so, the problem must not be serious. She then asked about Madame Dai's situation and found out that she was not in the prefectural city either. It seemed that Dai Wenhua had escorted her to celebrate some old madame's birthday. Gu Yundong dispelled her plan to visit the Dai residence. Then, Madame Chiu told her about the major events that had happened in the prefectural city in the past few months. Gu Yundong had an idea. After she finished reading the account book, she planned to leave New Tea Pavilion. Gu Yundong still had to look for Xiao Yuan and her mother and ask them if there was anything urgent. She planned to go alone. It was not far from here. Therefore, she asked He Yi and her daughter to stay here. If they could help, they would help. Or they could see how others treated the guests. It was good to get used to it in advance. Then, Gu Yundong took Tong Shuitao and drove the carriage to Xingtao Street. She went to Xiao Yuan's house and knocked on the door. Fortunately, Madame Fan and Xiao Yuan were both at home. It seemed that they did not go to the flower market to sell flowers today. When Gu Yundong stepped through the door and realized that there were not many flowers in the courtyard, she understood. The weather was cold, and there were not many people in the flower market. There were also fewer flowers. When she saw Gu Yundong, Madame Fan quickly welcomed her. "Miss Gu, you're all back?" "No, I'm the only one back. I still have to leave in a few days. I heard from the aunt next door that you and Xiao Yuan went to the small courtyard to look for our family. Is there anything wrong?" Madame Fan nodded. "There's indeed something I want to talk to your eldest aunt about." "Looking for eldest aunt?" "Yes, eldest aunt went to the flower and bird market to sell wood carvings." The stall was adjacent to Madame Fan's. The two of them seemed to be quite compatible. It was said that they had a good relationship. Here it goes. "Previously, your eldest aunt told me to help pay attention to whether there are any houses here for rent. Some time ago, a family's house on the street behind us happened to be empty. The house is not big, but the rent is all right. It costs 1 taels a month, so I went to the small courtyard to look for your eldest aunt." Madame Fan said, "It's just that I haven't seen her come back. Moreover, 2 days ago, I saw someone bringing people to take a look at the house. It was because the other party was not satisfied with the price and wanted to lower the price, so there was a dilemma. I'm worried that if we wait a little longer, that house will be rented out. To be honest, it's not easy to find a house there." Although Xingtao Street was also a chaotic place, and there were local tyrants who would come out from time to cause trouble, its position was actually not bad. The rent for the places with slightly better security was expensive. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 976, Gu Dajiang participates in the county examination. Gu Yundong pursed her lips slightly. Eldest aunt Gu had told her and Gu Dajiang not long ago that she wanted to move out. Gu Dafeng was a strong-willed person. It was naturally not a problem for her to live in a small courtyard for a short period of time, but she could not live there forever. After all, this was the Gu family's house, and she had already married into the Bian family. There was no reason for her to stay at her younger brother's house with her husband and son. However, she did not have enough money on hand at the moment, so she could only find a cheaper and smaller place to rent. After getting to know Madame Fan, eldest aunt Gu heard from her that Xingtao Street was not bad and that there were acquaintances like Madame Fan and her daughter around, so she asked them to help keep an eye on it. She just didn't expect it to happen so quickly. But it was impossible for Gu Yundong to let Gu Dafeng move here now. Bian Han's legs had not recovered yet. If he moved out now, if he was not careful, the early treatment would all be in vain. Eldest aunt was going to sell wood carvings. If uncle was the only one at home, what if he accidentally fell? At the very least, they had to let him stand up on his own. Only then could he move out. In Gu Yundong's opinion, it would take at least half a year. Gu Yundong had said this to Gu Dafeng before. After some consideration, Gu Dafeng finally agreed to continue living in the small courtyard. However, she clearly did not have time to tell Madame Fan about this. This was a waste of Madame Fan's efforts. Wait a minute, Gu Yundong suddenly thought of Zhuangzi. Didn't they say that they were looking for a house? If they lived here, Zhuangzi and Jiang Bao could go to the shop with Su Changshan, and Su Qing could be with Lan Huar. The two women wouldn't have to worry too much. Everyone lived close to each other and could help each other. At the thought of this, Gu Yundong hurriedly said to Madame Fan, "Thank you for your kind intentions, aunt. My eldest aunt won't rent a house here for the time being. Madame Fan was stunned for a moment before Gu Yundong continued, but I do have someone who wants to rent a house. I'll get Shui Tao to call them over. How about we take a look at that house later? Madame Fan quickly nodded. Of course. Gu Yundong asked Tong Shui Tao to bring Zhuangzi and the others back. When the Shi family arrived, Madame Fan brought them to the street at the back and found the owner. The owner looked at the large group of people and was shocked. He asked Madame Fan, "There are so many people living here?" "Of course not," Gu Yundong replied. "The three of them are the tenants. We're just here to take a look." The owner heaved a sigh of relief. His house was small. If he squeezed so many people in, it would make him feel like his house was about to be destroyed. These people were up to no good. The group of people entered the house and walked around. The house was indeed small and there were only 2 rooms. It was just right for Zhuangzi and Jianghu to have one each. However, the house was quite clean. Gu Yundong felt that it was not bad. Zhuangzi and the others were also quite satisfied. They even seemed a little excited. In the end, Gu Yundong helped bargain and rented it for 1.3 taels a month. After settling the matter of the house, Zhuangzi, Jianghu, and Lanhua also did their own jobs and quickly got to work. 2 days later, Gu Yundong brought Shi Dashan and his wife to a manor in the suburbs and handed them over to Shuizongguang. After they settled down, she returned to Yongfu village without stopping. 5 days later, the date of the county examination arrived. The Gu family woke up early in the morning. Gu Yundong even checked Gu Dajiang's things several times. Very good. The brush, ink, paper, and inkstone were all there. The 10 pieces of clothing were also put on. Everything was ready. The rest would depend on her father's luck. She hoped that nothing would happen to his position. However, things did not go as planned. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 977, Daughters Love. Outside the county examination hall, there were many people squeezing in. It was still early, and the sky was not completely bright. The temperature was low and very cold. Gu Dajiang couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he got out of the carriage. There were too many people, so the carriage could only stop a little further away and then they had to get down to walk. Gu Dajiang held a test basket in his hand. It was filled with many things that Gu Yundong had prepared for him. The group of people followed him in. Not long after, they saw Qin Wenjing standing not far away. Yi Junkin and his family stood beside him. This time, only Yi Junkin participated in the county examination in Qin Wenzheng's school. The 13-year-old youth was a little excited and nervous. His family even pulled him along and reminded him. Yi Junkin quickly greeted Gu Dajiang. Qin Wenjing looked at the two of them and said, "The first round of the county examination isn't difficult. Most people who can read and write well will pass. As long as you're not too nervous and maintain a clean and tidy paper, it won't be a problem to pass. The examiner will naturally explain the rules of the examination hall to you later. Just do as you're told." Then, he lowered his voice and added, "Remember, you can't mention His Majesty's name or those of the late emperors." The two of them nodded and carefully noted it down. Not long after, there was a sound in front of them. They were preparing to enter the venue after the body check. Gu Dajiang and Yi Junkin quickly walked forward and lined up at the back of the queue. There were many people participating in the county examination. There were hundreds of people in Fengkai County, so they were divided into several rows for body check. Gu Dajiang stood at the back of the team and couldn't help but rub his nose. After all, he was considered rather old here. Most of the people who participated in the county examination were about the same age as Yi Junkin. For someone like Gu Dajiang, if he hadn't even passed the county examination, he would basically be recognized as not talented in studying. Most of them wouldn't take the examination again. Of course, there were also some who refused to give up. They were already so old and even had grandchildren, but they still refused to give up. Every year, such people participated in the county examination and would be pointed at and discussed softly. Now, Gu Dajiang had become the subject of discussion. But he was fearless. Fortunately, it wasn't long before it was his turn. Gu Dajiang handed the examination basket to the guard and let others remove his coat with a calm expression. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the guard was speechless. Is this person crazy? He looked at Gu Dajiang with a strange expression. The corners of his mouth twitched as he asked, "How many clothes are you wearing?" 10. Gu Dajiang glanced at the shocked expressions of the people behind him from the corner of his eye. He coughed lightly and said, "There's nothing I can do. My children are filial. They insist that the weather is still cold and the exam is quite stressful. If I accidentally catch a cold, won't all my previous efforts be in vain? I can't let them down." In the end, he even puffed out his chest. "Don't worry, they're all thin clothes. It's obvious at a glance. There's no problem." The corners of the guard's mouth twitched as he glared at Gu Dajiang in dissatisfaction. This was clearly increasing their workload. Hence, the examination basket had already been checked. They were still looking at Gu Dajiang's shoes. However, when they saw Gu Dajiang putting on his clothes again and warming up, the others who were watching the joke couldn't help but shiver. They were so cold. After checking, Gu Dajiang walked in relaxed. After entering, they still had to queue up and wait for the county officials to call their names. There would also be a ritual. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 978, Failed the First Examination? After confirming everything, Gu Dajiang walked in with his badge. However, the more he walked, the more hesitant he became. A faint smell that left a deep impression on him came from the tip of his nose. In the end, he stood in front of his examination booth with tears streaming down his face. Yundong, you jinx. His luck was indeed extraordinary. He was really next door to the toilet. Why aren't you going in yet? The guard behind looked over and asked with a frown. Gu Dajiang chuckled in his heart. You already know the answer. Why don't I go in? Then why are you standing so far away? Why are you covering your nose when you ask? He wanted to take a deep breath, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. He even tried his best to slow down his breathing and slowly walked into the test shed. Fortunately, he had such experience before and was used to it, or maybe not. Gu Dajiang couldn't help but curse. He quickly took out the examination basket, found 2 patches of ointment, and pasted them on his temples. This was what Gu Yundong had asked the doctor to prepare. It could refresh the mind. Then, he took out a mask. This mask was very thin. It was only 2 pieces of cloth. There were 2 strings at the side that could pull the cloth together after all. They had to do a body search before entering the venue. Gu Yundong could not prepare too much for her father. 2 pieces of cloth were the limit. Then, Gu Dajiang stuffed the dried flowers between the cloths and covered his mouth and nose. Indeed, he was much better. The guard not far away had a deep impression of Gu Dajiang's 10 pieces of clothes, so he didn't leave just now. When he saw his actions, the corners of his mouth twitched. What's going on? Did he predict that he would be sitting beside the toilet, so he prepared so well in advance? But that wasn't all. Gu Dajiang took out another small bottle and dripped 2 drops into every corner. In an instant, a fragrance spread in the surroundings. The surrounding examinees were speechless. Brother, thank you. Gu Dajiang was finally ready, but when he thought about how there were still a few more rounds to go, he sighed inwardly. He was hesitating. After the first round, would he not take the next round? There were a total of 5 rounds of the county examination. The first round was the main event. Whether the candidates participated in the subsequent rounds was up to them. However, most of them would continue. Gu Dajiang had planned to finish all 5 rounds from the beginning. He was extremely sad, but after receiving the test paper, he calmed down and began to answer the questions seriously. However, many students who were participating in the county examination for the first time were too nervous. Not long after, someone ran to the toilet with an upset stomach. Dajiang was speechless. This would affect his performance. Fortunately, he was fully armed. Coupled with the fact that the first round was not difficult, he focused on writing quickly. The first test consisted of 2 essays and 1 poem. The subjects and styles of the essays and poem were fixed. The entire volume could not exceed 700 words. It was indeed not difficult for Dajiang. At noon, Dajiang only ate some pastries and continued answering the questions. He should be the first to put down his brush. A guard noticed his situation and couldn't help but take a second look at him. After Dajiang finished writing, he put down his pen and paper and read it carefully twice. Then, he waited for the release. He finished answering early and was the first batch to leave. When he walked out, he realized that Zhuangzi had also come out. His expression was very calm and there was no problem with it. On the other hand, Zhuangzi was shocked when he saw Dajiang's conflicted expression. It was not the right time to ask him. After the two of them left the examination hall, Zhuangzi asked cautiously, "Uncle Gu, are you all right?" Could it be that he had failed the first round? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 979, Too Tragic. Dajiang didn't feel too good. He felt that he had a smell on him. Didn't Zhuangzi feel it when he stood beside him? Zhuangzi saw his strange expression and thought that he really did not do well. He quickly comforted him. The county examination is held once a year. Many people are very nervous the first time they take the examination. But after all, after the first time, it won't happen again. Uncle Gu, let's. Before he could finish speaking, Yundong and the others hurried over. "Father, how are you? Are you all right?" She did not ask about the results. After all, Yundong was very confident in her father. But when she saw Dajiang's expression, why did he look so listless? Before Dajiang could say anything, 2 candidates walked past him. They covered their noses and pointed at him with smiles. "That's him. The test shed is by the latrine. It's him. That's too tragic. Look at him. He's so old. I reckon he has taken the examination many times but never passed. This time, he was unlucky enough to be assigned to the toilet. There's definitely no hope this year. Isn't that so?" Not long after noon, I looked up and realized that he had put down his brush. He must have given up on himself. It's too tragic. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to take it and would vomit. Dajiang was speechless. If you want to discuss others, shouldn't you walk further away? Why did you stand beside me and not lower your voice at all? He glared at the two of them. The 2 examinees were shocked and quickly pulled each other away. He's angry from embarrassment. Let's go, let's go. Yundong's eyes flashed with disbelief. No, it couldn't be. Although she had made preparations, she did not expect the misfortune to really land on her father. The rest of the Gu family also felt that Dajiang was too pitiful, but they should be comforting him at this time. Why did they want to laugh? Zhuangzi's eyes widened even more. So, Uncle Gu did not look well because of the bad location of the examination hall? Then how did he do? Yundong was the one who calmed down and suppressed the smile on her lips. She looked up and saw her father's angry expression. After a moment of silence, she sighed and patted his shoulder. "Father, you have to thank me. Let's go home." At this moment, Dajiang only wanted to go back and take a shower. After bidding farewell to Qin Wenzheng and Zhuangzi, he left in a hurry. Yundong and the others looked at each other and immediately followed him into the carriage. Almost everyone in Yongfu village knew that the head of the Gu family, Dajiang, was going to participate in the county examination. All of them were looking forward to it. Some people hoped that he would pass, while others hoped that he would fail. However, no matter what they were thinking, there were many people waiting at the entrance of the village. When they saw the Gu family's carriage, they hurriedly ran forward and asked, "Dajiang, how did you do?" "Dajiang, I heard that this county examination is very difficult." "How did you do?" "It doesn't matter if you don't pass. It's held once a year. You can continue to take the exam next year. Anyway, your family can afford it." Gu Yundong frowned slightly. She lifted the curtain and said to the people outside, "Everyone, disperse. It's only the first round. How can you know the results so quickly after the exam?" "When will we know the result?" someone asked. After all, it had been a long time since an elementary scholar appeared in Yongfu village. They didn't even know how the county examination would be conducted. "In about half a month." "What? That long?" Gu Yundong ignored everyone else and the carriage quickly returned to the Gu residence. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 980, Result publicized 2 days later, Gu Dajiang participated in the second exam. The second round was a challenge, the third round was another challenge, and the fourth and fifth rounds were consecutive. After every round, the examinees would rest for 2 days. Therefore, it was not too hard for them to pass these 5 rounds. Ever since the first round, Gu Dajiang had gotten used to that smell. In the next few rounds, Gu Yundong even tried to find dry flowers that could make him feel more comfortable and asked him to put them under his mask. Gu Dajiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Actually, it didn't matter anymore. The special training at home had been very useful. He sat beside the latrine and could calmly write his article. It did not matter. However, after the last exam, Gu Dajiang quickly ran out. After returning home, he immediately took a shower and soaked in the bathtub for an hour. He sighed faintly. Indeed, it is easy to go from frugal to extravagant, but it is difficult to go from extravagant to frugal. In the past, when I was in Gu village, I grabbed cow and pig dung with my bare hands. My body was so dirty that a layer of mud could be scraped off, but I could still lie down and sleep soundly. Now, however, it was indeed very comfortable to take a bath. Furthermore, when he came out, his daughter personally made delicious food and placed it on the table. At that moment, Gu Dajiang felt extremely satisfied. The Gu family didn't even ask about the results. There were still 5 days before the results were publicized. During this period, he just had to eat and drink well. However, the others in Yongfu village were scratching their ears and cheeks. They wished they could come to the Gu family every day to ask. No one knew why they were in such a hurry. Even Dong Shilan came to the Gu residence twice to ask. Gu Yundong was speechless. Even if he passed the county examination, he would not be an elementary scholar. There was still the prefectural examination. He would only be considered an elementary scholar if he passed it. Time passed quickly, and 5 days were gone in a flash. That morning, everyone in the Gu family woke up early. Although they all felt that there was no problem with passing the county examination, they still could not suppress their nervousness. The entire family got into the carriage and headed for the county city. The villagers of Yongfu village were a step too late. When they arrived, the Gu family had already left. Gu Yundong had reserved a table at a restaurant near the county office 2 days ago. It was still early and the result wouldn't be publicized so quickly. The group entered the restaurant and sat on the second floor by the street. Not long after, Qin Wenjing and Yi Junkin arrived. The restaurant was soon filled with people. Gu Yundong ordered some food and ate while waiting. Soon, even the streets were filled with people. It was lively below, and everyone was discussing who might be on the rankings. Qin Wenjing also said, "Only 50 people will pass this county examination. There are still many talented students in the county city. Shi Xiao, Yu Hongkai, and the others from Dongyi Academy are very likely to be on the list. However, the 2 of you have solid knowledge, so I'm not worried. I just don't know what ranking you are." Gu Dajiang usually studied in the prefectural city. He didn't know many students in the county city. However, the students in the county city often held poetry and essay conferences. Some people who did well stood out. These people were all popular candidates for this county examination. Soon, it was noon. Yundong and the others were about to get up and look at the government office when they heard the sound of wind blowing and beating. The people who were waiting in the restaurant all stood up. The result has been publicized. The result has been publicized. Quick, go down and take a look. With a series of crackling sounds, many people rushed downstairs. However, the streets below were filled with people. Even if they went down, they would not be able to squeeze through. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 981, Who's the County Champion? The Gu family members calmly continued to sit in the restaurant on the second floor. If they went down now, they would not be able to squeeze in at all. It was better to wait for the crowd to disperse before going down. Zhuangzi's family wanted to go down, but seeing that the Gu family was in such a state and that Qin Wenjing was still around, they stabilized themselves and continued to eat and drink. Only their table was left on the huge second floor. The streets below were already crowded with people. 2 armed bailiffs opened the way in front, and the 2 bailiffs behind walked to the notice board with the rankings. Everyone looked at them eagerly. The few bailiffs were expressionless and only scolded the crowd that was squeezing around. Move aside and step back. When there was an empty space in front of the notice board, the 2 bailiffs opened the list and pasted it on the wall. After the post was done and the bailiffs left, everyone went forward with a bang. Not long after, someone shouted loudly, I won, 30th place, ha 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 ha, 30th place. Someone beside him immediately congratulated him. That person looked at the rankings happily for a while more before being pulled out by the person behind him. Get out after you're done checking. Don't block the people behind you. Yundong and the others stood on the second floor. As they were far away, they could not see the names on the list clearly. They could only look at the various expressions of the people on the streets. Some people were ecstatic and screamed loudly. Some people cried loudly and beat their chests. Yundong even saw an old man with white hair covering his face and crying bitterly. He shouted heart-wrenchingly, I didn't pass. Why didn't I pass? I can even recite the 4 books and 5 classics backwards. Why didn't I pass? God, you're unfair to me. Someone beside him looked at him sympathetically and comforted him. If you don't win this time, there will be a next time. You will definitely win next time. Yes. That person came back to his senses and nodded heavily. Yes, I'll take the exam again next year. I'll go back and read. I'll definitely be able to pass. Yundong was speechless. This man looked about the same age as old Gu. He had not even passed the county examination after so many years. He still wanted to continue? As one got older, their memory and comprehension abilities would deteriorate. He might do even worse next year. Yundong shook her head and looked away, no longer looking at him. There were still many people on the streets. Some people could not squeeze through and simply asked the people in front if their names were on it. Some people knew that they did not pass, so they asked others. Who's the champion? Who's first? Is it Shi Shao or Yu Hongkai? I guess it must be Shi Shao. I think it's Yu Hongkai. Maybe it's someone else? Some people could not see the rankings and could only discuss outside. However, in the next moment, a shout came from inside. It's not Shi Shao or Yu Hongkai. It's Gu Dajiang. The county champion is Gu Dajiang. It's Gu Dajiang. The students behind were suddenly shocked. Gu Dajiang? Who is Gu Dajiang? Why haven't I heard of him? I've never heard of him either. Where did he come from? In short, he's not a student of our Dongyi Academy. Gu Dajiang, where is Gu Dajiang? Come out, Gu Dajiang. After the people on the street recovered from their shock, they began to look for people. This was really a dark horse. They actually didn't know this county champion. They had never heard of this name. At this moment, the Gu family on the second floor of the restaurant looked at the equally shocked Gu Dajiang in astonishment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 982, Father, your first county champion? It's him? How was this possible? Gu Dajiang was stunned. Yes, he was talented in reading. He had been smart since he was young. He had been greatly praised by his mentor. He had been affirmed by the head of the Tianhai Academy. He had been assured by the young genius top scholar, Qin Wenjing, that there was definitely no problem. However, he was sitting next to the toilet during the exam. He was the first to put down his brush and paper. He had not received the headmaster's guidance for many years. He had only entered the academy to study for half a year. Even so, he actually got first place, the county champion. The corners of Gu Dajiang's mouth couldn't help but crack. Then, he suddenly stood up. This time, he couldn't stay in the restaurant calmly anymore. He immediately ran downstairs. He wanted to take a look personally. He had to confirm it personally. When Yi Junkin saw him coming down the stairs, he could not hold it in any longer and ran down as well. Gu Dafeng was the third, followed by Yi Junkin's parents. Gu Yundong could not help but say to Qin Wenjing, "Help me take care of my mother and younger siblings." "Thank you." With that, she rushed down. Qin Wenjing, who had just left the stool and wanted to get off, was speechless. He silently sat back down, feeling a little angry that he was actually a step too late. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have kept his image, right? He could only turn his head and say to Madame Yang, Yun Shu, and the others, "Well, it's crowded below. It's easy for you to get lost. It's the same if we wait here." "Yes, master." Gu Yunshu and Bian Yuanji nodded at the same time. Although Madame Yang was still thinking about going down, Lu Hongxiu stopped her. Seeing that the three children had squeezed to the railing and were looking down, she quickly squeezed over. As expected, as soon as she lowered her head, she saw Gu Dajiang and the others rush out of the restaurant and walk towards the rankings one after another. Gu Yundong was fast and had already reached Gu Dajiang. But, she couldn't squeeze in at all. There were too many people. She had just squeezed in when she was pushed out again. As soon as she entered, she was pushed out again and further away. Gu Yundong held her forehead and stood on the spot to look around. Suddenly, she shouted, "Whose money fell to the ground?" As soon as she said this, many people subconsciously lowered their heads. Gu Yundong was delighted and took the opportunity to enter with Gu Dajiang. Fortunately, they were all strong. Once they squeezed through an opening, it would be much easier to move forward. Finally, after the few of them were covered in sweat, they finally stood 3 meters away from the rankings. Gu Yundong had good eyesight. She looked up and saw that her father's name was indeed in the first row. She immediately shouted happily. "You're really number one. Father, you're really number one, the county champion." Gu Yundong pointed at the rankings. "Did you see it? Gu Dajiang, your name." Gu Dajiang naturally saw it. His fingers trembled slightly. Gu Dafeng, who was beside him, grabbed his arm and pinched it very hard. She shouted excitedly, "Brother, it's you. It's your name. I recognize it. You're really too awesome." When the people beside them heard the commotion, they turned their heads with a whoosh and focused their gazes on them. County champion? So this person was Gu Dajiang? The eyes of the two people beside him constricted as they looked at him in shock. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 983, he's fourth. One of them couldn't help but touch him. "Why, your name is Gu Dajiang?" "Yes, it's me." Gu Dajiang finally came back to his senses. His face was filled with joy as his eyes landed on the rankings. That person's eyes widened. Are you really Gu Dajiang? But you were beside the toilet during the exam. You even finished answering the questions and put down your brush and paper early. How can you be the county champion? When the others heard this, they were even more shocked. His exam shed was by the latrine? Finishing the questions early? Are you serious? Gu Dajiang also recognized the two of them. Weren't they the people who had stood beside him when he left the examination hall and said firmly that he couldn't get in? Gu Dajiang couldn't help but puff out his chest. So what if the test shed is beside the toilet? As long as you answer the questions seriously and don't smell anything, you can naturally write like a god. Everyone was speechless. Gu Yundong thought of the 5 or 6 sachets he had brought with him during the second round of the exam. The corners of her mouth twitched. Forget it, since it was a joyous day, she would not expose it. However, the people around him quickly congratulated Gu Dajiang. Brother Gu, to be able to achieve such results despite such an environment and obtain the county championship, you're indeed admirable. Brother Gu, where are you studying now? I don't think we've seen you before. That's right, Brother Gu. We often hold poetry gatherings, but I didn't see you participate. If you came, we would have known you long ago. Gu Dajiang had interacted with the students in Tianhai Academy for a long time and was already used to it. He replied politely, I usually live in the prefectural city and don't come back often. That's why I don't know you. So he was in the prefectural city. No wonder they felt that he was unfamiliar. However, they were also puzzled. At Gu Dajiang's age, it couldn't be his first time participating in the county examination, right? If he had participated in it before, they would have known him. Someone still wanted to ask, but a panting voice came from behind. Uncle Gu, is my name on it? It was Zhuangzi. In the end, he was one step behind Gu Dajiang. When he went downstairs, he couldn't squeeze in. In addition, he was young and thin, and his parents weren't farmers. Now that he had finally arrived, he was sweating profusely and in a sorry state. When Gu Yundong heard his voice, she quickly turned to look at the rankings. The first place was Gu Dajiang, and the second place was an unfamiliar name. Anyway, she didn't know. The third place was Yu Hongkai from Dongyi Academy, who Qin Wenjing had mentioned had a chance of becoming the county champion. The other person, Shi Xiao, was in 6th place. Zhuangzi was in 4th place. Gu Yundong was delighted. She immediately turned his head and said, You won too. You're 4th. Zhuangzi was stunned and immediately shouted happily, I got it too. Father, mother, I got it too. His parents were so happy that they cried. Yes. You got it too. Our son is too capable. Many people were attracted by them. It was said that he was 4th. Although he was not as good as the county champion, he was still in the top 10 of the county. It was also an honor. All of them were instantly envious. Moreover, this young man looked to be only 13 or 14 years old. He was so young. His future was probably even more limitless. Many people present knew Zhuangzi. They knew that he was studying in a very small school. However, they did not expect that the school would have such ability to nurture him into 4th place. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 984, Come Here Zhuangzi was Qin Wensheng's student. With Qin Wensheng's guarantee, Gu Yundong knew that he would be fine. However, the 4th place was already very eye-catching. At the same time, her father was in 1st place. He was even more eye-catching and she was proud. If there were no major accidents, the county champion would not need to take the examination all the way to the court examination. He would enter school as usual and obtain the elementary scholar's honor. Her father was almost a confirmed elementary scholar. Father, let's go out first. Yun Shu and the others are still waiting. Okay. Let's go back first. Gu Dajiang hurriedly bade farewell to the examinees who were still talking to him. These people knew that such good news should be told to the family early, so they didn't stop him. Hence, a group of people squeezed out of the crowd. Gu Yundong's forehead was covered in sweat. She exhaled heavily, tidied her clothes, and hurried to the restaurant. The people upstairs had been waiting anxiously for a long time. They all looked downstairs. After Gu Yundong and the others came up, Yunshu and Yinka rushed over like cannonballs. Father, are they telling the truth? You're the county champion, right? Yes. Gu Dajiang was overjoyed and rubbed his little head. Yunshu was overjoyed. Father, you're the best. You have to work harder and win the prefecture examination and the court examination in one go. In the end, you'll be the top scorer in the Royal Palace examination. Father, do you know that you will win 6 consecutive examinations? Gu Dajiang, no, I don't know. I don't want to know either. Son, you really think highly of me. You're even talking about winning 6 consecutive examinations. Your father feels that his luck is heaven-defying to have obtained a county champion. Why do you make it sound like I'm already the top scholar? Gu Yundong coughed lightly and said to Yunshu, don't give father so much pressure. He's going to cry later. Yunshu blinked. All right, he should ask for less from his father. On the other side, Yi Junkin also walked quickly to Qin Wenzheng and bowed deeply. Teacher, I didn't let you down. I'm ranked 4th. Qin Wenzheng's eyes lit up. Good job. He had expected Yi Junkin to enter the top 10 in the county. He had originally estimated that the kid would be ranked 7th or 8th. He did not expect him to be more hard-working than he had imagined and get 4th place. However, the person who surprised him the most was Gu Dajiang. He was indeed confident in Gu Dajiang, but Gu Dajiang had actually obtained the county champion. This gave him a huge surprise. Especially when he heard that Gu Dajiang's examination shed was near the latrine. Indeed, with Gu Dajiang's experience, his willpower was much better than ordinary young people. It's getting late. Since we already know our ranking, I think we should leave first. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave later. If everyone knew that the county champion was here, they would probably rush up soon. Gu Yundong also thought of it and hurriedly let her parents go downstairs. If there were too many people later, it would be bad if Madame Yang and the children were squeezed. The group of people took advantage of the fact that it was still crowded below and quickly got up to leave. However, as soon as they went down, they immediately realized that the entrance was blocked. Sure enough, someone had already walked in and shouted, "Where's the county champion? Where's the county champion?" Gu Yundong hurriedly took 2 steps back. Father, hide first. I'll ask where the back door is. She felt that these people who came to look for the county champion seemed very excited. Gu Dajiang had just nodded when someone beside him suddenly waved at them. Come here. Gu Yundong looked over. When she saw the person, her pupils constricted and she suddenly rushed towards him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 985, Coming Back to Marry You, Why Are You Back at This Time? Gu Yundong could not hide the joy on her face. She rushed to him and hurriedly stopped, maintaining a distance of 1 meter from him. Unfortunately, they were outside now. Otherwise, she would have hugged him. Xiao Qingyuan looked travel-worn. His hair was a little messy, and his clothes were slightly wrinkled. There was a hint of fatigue on his face, but when he looked at Gu Yundong, his eyes were very gentle. He lowered his head slightly and said, I came back to marry you. With that, he quickly looked up and said to Gu Dajiang and the others, this is the back door. The carriage is waiting behind. Let's go back first. Okay. Although Gu Dajiang was also surprised by his sudden appearance, it was not the time to talk. He kept leading everyone to the back door. Shui Rong was already waiting there with a carriage. Beside him was Qin Wenzheng's carriage and Ah Mao, who had returned with Xiao Qingyuan. They quickly got into the carriages. Xiao Qingyuan held Gu Yundong's hand gently. His large hands were warm. Perhaps he had grabbed the reins when he was riding the horse, and there was a mark on his palm. Gu Yundong glanced at him and quickly got into the carriage. Gu Dajiang was in a good mood today. He found Xiao Qingyuan much more pleasing to the eye and couldn't help but ask, "When did you come back?" Xiao Qingyuan jumped onto the horse's back. He turned around and saw Gu Yunshu looking at him eagerly. He immediately carried him over and placed him in front of him. As he pulled the reins, he replied, "I just entered the city. On the way, I heard many people say that today is the day of the county rankings. I thought that Uncle Gu would participate in the county test this year and that you would definitely come to see the rankings, so I came straight here to look for you." When he arrived, he happened to see them enter the restaurant. He also saw the scene of the other students looking for the restaurant. He knew that there was no way to leave from the front door, so he found Shui Rong and asked him to lead the carriage to the back door. Gu Dajiang nodded. Not bad. This man was quite considerate. Did your trip to the capital go well? Xiao Qingyuan replied, "Everything went smoothly." After a pause, he said, "Congratulations, Uncle Gu, on winning the county championship." Gu Dajiang coughed lightly and couldn't help but smile. However, he was an elder and had to be steady. He couldn't let this brat see that he was very happy, so he nodded and lowered the curtain. Xiao Qingyuan was speechless. Was he wrong to congratulate him? Gu Yunshu, who was in front of him, covered his mouth and giggled. He said softly, "My father is shy." Xiao Qingyuan couldn't imagine his future father-in-law being shy. The group of people quickly arrived at Qin Wenzheng's school. Qin Wenzheng wanted to have a good chat with Xiao Qingyuan. After all, he had personally facilitated the man's trip to the capital. Although there was news from the capital about the cowpox vaccination method from time to time, it was not as clear as a personal demonstration. However, seeing that Xiao Qingyuan only wanted to go back and talk to his future wife, the corners of Qin Wenzheng's mouth twitched. In the end, he dispelled this thought and suggested that they meet another day. The Gu family parted ways with Qin Wenzheng, Yi Junkin, and the others and headed back to Yongfu village. There were already many people gathered at the entrance of Yongfu village. Even the village chief, Chen Liang, was there. When he saw the carriage driving over from afar, he hurriedly ran forward. "Brother Gu, you're finally back. The rankings have been posted, right? How is it? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 986. Good job. Many people in the village looked over with anxious eyes. Of course, there were also people who were secretly gloating. The Gu family had money, land, and shops. Their lives were already enviable. If Gu Dajiang also became an elementary scholar, wouldn't the Gu family be in heavens? Wouldn't the entire Yongfu village be surnamed Gu? It was said that Gu Dajiang's examination shed was close to the toilet. It would be strange if he could pass. Therefore, when someone asked what rank he got, someone who seemed to be kind but was actually stabbing a knife immediately said, "Dajiang, it doesn't matter if you didn't perform well. There's still another year if you didn't pass this year." I heard that those in their 70s or 80s are still insisting. Don't give up. You're still young and your children are filial. When you enter the examination hall with Yunshu later, it might be a beautiful story. Most of the people could not tell. Some even nodded in agreement. That's right, that's right. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. Xiao Qingyuan looked directly at the person who had spoken just now. His sharp gaze was like a wild wolf's. That person only felt a chill on his neck. When he met the gaze, his expression instantly froze. He opened his mouth and muttered softly, "Why do I feel that this wolf cub is even more ferocious than before?" Gu Dajiang had already alighted from the carriage. He didn't know how to answer everyone's questions. It was Yunka who came out later. She said very proudly, "My father is the champion of the county." County champion? Chen Liang, who was standing at the front, was shocked. Did he hear wrongly just now? What did Yunka say? However, there were also people who did not understand what this county champion meant. They immediately frowned and said, "What county champion? You didn't pass, right?" Liang suddenly turned around and shouted. He slapped his thigh hard. He didn't pass. The county champion is the first place in the county examination. He's the first place in our county. Brother Gu, you're good. What? First place? Really? Dajiang, you're amazing. This is a joyous occasion. Io, isn't he about to become an elementary scholar? There's actually a county champion in our village. A big shot has appeared. Brother Gu, you have to treat us. Let's have a good time together, right? Gu Dajiang opened his mouth. He had only passed one county examination. There was no need to do this. Gu Yundong also understood that it was not appropriate to be too high profile now. She immediately said, "There's no hurry for a celebration. When my father becomes an elementary scholar, we will naturally have to celebrate. My father still has to participate in the prefectural examination in April and really doesn't have time. He will rush to the prefectural city tomorrow or the day after." Liang hurriedly said, yes. The prefectural examination is more important. We can't let other things affect your studies now. Then, he waved at the villagers. All right. Don't stand there. Go back and do your own things. The villagers still wanted to say something. This was the county champion. It was good to shake hands and bask in the joy. However, Liang did not allow it. Everyone could only retreat regretfully and make way for the Gu family. Mao had already gotten off the horse and was stepping on the firm and flat ground. He couldn't help but stamp his feet and whisper to Xiao Qingyuan, "Young master, this is the path that Miss has built. It's so comfortable to walk on." Xiao Qingyuan nodded, looking proud. The Gu family finally returned home. Gu Dajiang heaved a sigh of relief. However, although the Gu family did not intend to treat the villagers, they still had to celebrate within the family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 987, What did he do? Today, not only did Gu Dajiang get the county champion, but even Xiao Qingyuan returned. This was a double blessing. She had to cook personally. Thus, the moment they reached home, Gu Yundong rubbed her palms together and entered the kitchen. Xiao Qingyuan wanted to follow, but Gu Dajiang pulled him along and asked him many questions about what happened after he went to the capital. After the two of them chatted for a while, Xiao Qingyuan left and walked to the kitchen. Gu Dafeng was also inside. She had a good impression of this junior, Xiao Qingyuan. She could also tell that Xiao Qingyuan had good taste and ability, especially since he was loyal to her Yundong and did not have a troublesome family by his side. If Yundong married him, it would be equivalent to having another member in the Gu family. Such a son-in-law was too rare. Therefore, when she saw him enter the kitchen, she knew that he must have a lot to say after being separated from Yundong for so long. She immediately smiled and called for the others in the kitchen to walk out together. She even considerately closed the door after leaving. As soon as she left, Xiao Qingyuan went forward and pulled her into his arms from behind. Gu Yundong was kneading dough and her hands were still stained with flour. It was not appropriate to touch him. She could only turn her head slightly and look up at his eyebrows. "You've lost weight. Did you not listen to me and eat well?" Xiao Qingyuan met her watery eyes and felt as if he was about to be sucked in. He said in a slightly hoarse voice, "Yes, but the food in the capital wasn't delicious." The food in the capital was not delicious? Why did this sound so unbelievable? "I want to eat your egg fried rice," he added. Gu Yundong was slightly stunned. Then, she remembered that when they first met, she had made him an egg fried rice and he looked very satisfied. Unexpectedly, he was still thinking about it often. "I'll make it for you in a minute." Xiao Qingyuan couldn't help but look at the kitchen door. He lowered his head and kissed her. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and grabbed his clothes with her flour-stained hands. Xiao Qingyuan was still unsatisfied when he let go of her, and the desire in his heart became more and more obvious. He looked down at her. You said last time that we'd get married when I got back. Yes, after my father passes the prefectural examination. Okay. Xiao Qingyuan didn't ask further. He looked down at the basin in front of her. Let me help you. After saying that, he went to wash his hands and came back to knead for her. Gu Yundong decided to do something else. There were only the two of them in the kitchen. Eldest Aunt Gu would probably take a long time to come in. Gu Yundong asked him about the capital. Have you settled everything in the capital? Did you encounter any difficulties? Xiao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly and said calmly, No, I only made a suggestion. I still have to rely on the imperial physicians from the imperial hospital to implement it. Things are progressing very smoothly, so I can come back at this time. So the cowpox vaccination method passed? Yes, it did. I even met the current emperor. Gu Yundong was stunned and instantly became interested. You met the emperor? What does he look like? What's his personality like? The emperor was the highest leader of the country. Just thinking about it made her feel inexplicably excited. Xiao Qingyuan laughed. He thought for a moment and said, His Majesty is a very decisive person. Decisive? Gu Yundong had long seen through this. However, what did he do to give Xiao Qingyuan such a direct impression? What did he do? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 988, Is the Emperor Crazy? What did he do? Xiao Qingyuan still found it unbelievable. He lowered his voice slightly and said, After the cowpox vaccination method was confirmed that it could prevent smallpox, the emperor ordered it to be popularized. Unfortunately, no one was willing to try it. Even if the imperial physician said that there was no problem, even if it was an imperial edict from the emperor, even if the imperial physicians said that they had tested it on death row prisoners and it was absolutely foolproof, no one was willing to try it. After all, it could be fatal. What if they failed? If they failed, they would lose their lives. Moreover, this method was suggested by a country bumpkin. Others heard that this person was not even a doctor. The method he mentioned was unorthodox. Could it be used? Would anyone dare to use it? Not to mention those high-ranking officials and nobles, even the commoners were unwilling. Xiao Qingyuan scoffed at this. He didn't propose such a preventive method for the sake of the world. If Yundong hadn't wanted him to make a contribution and urgently told Qin Wenjing about the method, Xiao Qingyuan wouldn't even have mentioned it. He would only silently test it himself and inoculate the people close to him. What did the rest have to do with him? Even if these people died from smallpox, he didn't care. Just as Xiao Qingyuan was about to bid farewell to Song Dajiang impatiently and return, the emperor in the palace suddenly made a bold decision that shocked him. The emperor let his 11-year-old son try the cowpox vaccination method. Gu Yundong's eyes widened in shock. He wanted the prince to do it himself? Yes. When this news spread, the entire capital was in an uproar. This prince was born by the empress and was the legitimate heir to the throne. How noble was his status? Moreover, the current emperor only had 3 children, one of whom was a princess. Was the emperor crazy? Everyone felt that the emperor was dissatisfied with the empress and that prince. It was only later that Xiao Qingyuan found out that the prince had requested this himself. He did not know about the twists and turns in the palace, but he could more or less guess that this might not only be to tell the world about the effect of the cowpox vaccination method, but also for some other purposes. When Gu Yundong heard this, she fell into deep thought. Perhaps the emperor agreed because he wanted the world to see this prince's courage and contribution to the world. He might be paving the way for him, building his reputation. But no matter what, Gu Yundong could not help but admire the courage of this father and son. But then, a trace of anger surged in her heart. What if this method didn't succeed? Then the first person to be convicted would be her Xiao Qingyuan. What if someone wanted to harm that prince and succeeded with the cowpox vaccination method? Wouldn't everyone still have to make Xiao Qingyuan take the blame? Sure enough, politics were too dirty. If they were not careful, they might become cannon fodder. What happened next? Xiao Qingyuan could tell that there was a hint of dissatisfaction in her tone. He turned to look at her and smiled. I naturally succeeded in the end. The emperor rewarded me, so I came back. Gu Yundong nodded. It's good that you're back. Let's stay away from these things in the future. Next time, let Qin Wenjing go alone. At most, you'll write down the method and let him figure it out himself. Xiao Qingyuan, after a moment of silence, he said, actually, I came back this time with the emperor's decree. I have something to do. Gu Yundong's hand froze. Damn it, it's not over yet? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 989. He really knows how to make the best use of everything. Gu Yundong frowned slightly. What decree? The cowpox vaccination method has been confirmed. It can indeed prevent smallpox. Naturally, we have to promote it vigorously, Xiao Qingyuan said. It's not only in the capital. It's the same in other places. Our Xianxia prefecture is naturally no exception. There was the emperor and the imperial physicians in the capital who endorsed it, and the prince had personally tested it. There was no longer any problem. However, the emperor directly handed the Xianxia prefecture to Xiao Qingyuan. He was the most experienced and familiar with the cowpox vaccination method. Therefore, the emperor issued an imperial edict and asked Prefecture Magistrate Dai of Xianxia Prefecture to cooperate with Xiao Qingyuan to inoculate the commoners of the county towns and villages that were subordinate to the Xianxia Prefecture. Not only that, but in order to spread the cowpox vaccination method throughout the country, the emperor gave the various prefectural cities great pressure and asked the government office to register and count the people who had been vaccinated. Half a year later, if the number of people registered in the prefectural city was minimal, they would have to report it and leave a record. At that time, the local government's evaluation of incompetence would very likely affect their future promotion. Of course, if the number of people registered exceeded 1/3, they would be rewarded by the imperial court. Gu Yundong almost fainted when she heard that. The emperor was really good at finding trouble for them. His decision. Wasn't he worried that some prefecture magistrates will go to extremes and force those unwilling citizens to be vaccinated for the reward? Wasn't he worried that they will focus on this and not care about anything else? Xiao Qingyuan had already kneaded the flour and covered the basin with a cloth. That's why the emperor will send a team of imperial guards to the various government offices to assist. Although it was said to be assisting, it was actually to supervise. Not only the imperial guards, but there will also be an imperial physician who is familiar with the cowpox vaccination method coming to the various prefectural cities. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly asked, then which imperial physician is coming to the Xianxia prefecture? Is Song Dajiang here? Me. Gu Yundong, what do you mean? When did you become an imperial physician? Xiao Qingyuan explained, I'm not an imperial physician, but am more familiar with the cowpox vaccination method than an imperial physician is. The emperor said that there aren't many imperial physicians in the imperial hospital. The palace needs them, and so does the capital. Therefore, no other imperial physicians will come from the Xianxia prefecture. They'll cooperate with the prefecture magistrate. Moreover, they won't send the imperial guards because Qin Wenjing is here. Gu Yundong cursed in her heart. The current emperor really knew how to make the best use of everything. After using Qin Wenjing, he started to have designs on Xiao Qingyuan. Not a good thing. Xiao Qingyuan saw that she was furious and did not say the last sentence. In fact, when the emperor made this decision, he also said one sentence, I heard that your fiancée is also an extremely smart girl. Even Minister Qin praised her endlessly and was tricked by her twice. You are also a rare talent. I believe that there will be no problem if I leave this matter to you. At that time, Xiao Qingyuan had the urge to beat Qin Wenjing up. He must have reported this matter to the emperor. Otherwise, how could the emperor remember his Yundong? However, Yundong was busy, so Xiao Qingyuan did not plan to let her worry. Therefore, he would discuss this matter with Qin Wenzheng and carry out the emperor's decree. This matter is a little urgent. Tomorrow or the day after, I have to go to the prefectural city. When are you going? I'll pack up tomorrow and go to the prefectural city the day after tomorrow. Alright, let's go together. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible.